after being called a total failure for 3 straight years. Kannagi returns to the academy, appearing just like the weak kid everyone loved to mock. But things have changed. The second the re-exam starts, he leaves the whole school speechless. During the 100-meter dash, he doesn't just win, he shatters the record instantly. Next comes the long-distance run. He crosses the line so quickly that nobody can believe their own eyes. One after another, every single test becomes a nightmare for the other students. Strength, endurance, and push-ups, Kannagi destroys every record like they're absolutely nothing. The bullies who mocked him can only watch in silence as the academy's weakest student suddenly turns into a monster. But the most insane shock happens during the final test. When Kannagi finally lets his mana loose, the testing machine simply cannot handle it. It literally explodes on the spot, throwing the whole school into absolute chaos. But things weren't always like this. Kannagi was once the only student who failed the exam. While everyone else celebrated, the main character Kannagi Minato felt a strange and heavy emptiness. That was his third failure. He was always the one left behind to clean the classroom. Being all alone in that moment almost brought him to tears as he felt completely useless. A classmate informs him that every student is required to gather at the main school entrance. The reason is a guy named Hisaki Kaiza, a famous rank hunter. He attended this very school before rising to fame as a top-tier hunter. He's here filming a documentary about his glorious days as a star student before he became famous. But there's a dark truth you and I should know. Hisaki Kaiza was actually a monster who bullied Kannagi every single day for no reason at all. Remembering that terrible guy makes our main character tremble. But Hisaki tells the cameras that Kannagi was his best friend and always helped him study back then, even providing money. Because Kannagi's family was poor, these lies were just meant to make Hisaki look like a saint on camera. And since Kannagi lacked the courage to speak up, he just nodded along with his lies. While the reporters snapped photos, those painful memories burn in Kannagi's mind. He absolutely despises this man. Once the filming ended, our protagonist felt the crushing weight of being so weak, not having the power to change a single thing. As a kid, Kannagi loved reading books about the legendary founders who once saved the entire world. When the Tower of Malevolence appeared and nearly destroyed humanity with monsters, these incredible heroes rose up to save everyone. They were truly legends. One hero crushed 10,000 soldiers with a wooden stick. It could have been a simple pencil, or a mage so strong she cast spells without speaking a single word. That was over 100 years ago, and now they are nothing but legends. When that mark appears on your skin, you have the potential to awaken and become rich and powerful. But unfortunately for him, Kannagi failed that crucial test 3 times. His big dream was supposed to be dead. But before leaving, Hisaki Kaiza approaches his former classmate, promising to convince the association to give him a retake. He just needs to go to the founder's sanctuary later to meet him there. This leaves our protagonist totally confused. The guy is trash, but if he's doing this to boost his image, it doesn't even matter. As long as Kannagi gets one more shot at his dream, he's going to take it. Cut to the founder's mausoleum later on, where cameras roll for the big finale. We see Hisaki standing before the ancient tomb, delivering one hell of a grand speech. Once the interview wraps, the reporters thank him for his time. Thrilled with the footage, Hisaki plays the perfect gentleman, claiming he is excited to read the story. But the second they leave, he heads deep into the tomb where his men are digging, asking if they have found the way in. They point excitedly toward a hidden passage, wondering if this is the prize. Suddenly, a voice calls out from the shadows behind them. Kannagi showed up hoping to retake his exam, only to catch them in the act. To him, this place was holy, housing the memories of the legends he admired most. But when he tries to stop these greedy looters, Hisaki Kaiza blasts him with the full power of an A rank. That punch, pure brutality. Kannagi feels his ribs shatter. The thugs shout that they have stripped the place of everything valuable. Everything precious was right there. Fading fast, Kannagi's only thought is how wrong this is. He cannot let them do this. Hisaki grabs the dying boy, mocking him, claiming he knows every pathetic detail about his life. The Academy's weakest student. A total bookworm, obsessed with legends who have been dead for centuries. His perfect plan: toss our hero in the river and let him take the fall for robbing the founder's tomb. That earlier blow was not just a warning, it was meant to be fatal. As he is tossed into the dark water, he has zero strength left. Sinking deep, he remembers the years of training every day and studying hard for a dream that's now vanishing into the void. But then, at the very bottom, strange lights begin to flicker around him. Even in the freezing depths, these lights radiate a strange, comforting warmth. A voice echoes, "He's the vessel for this era." Turns out, ancient heroic spirits were sealed here. Now, Kanaga's hand bears the legendary crest of nothingness. It grants no raw power, but it allows the user to channel any founder's spirit. Now, Kanagi must choose which hero he will form a soul-binding contract with. Magic, swordsmanship, spear arts, he could have any power he wants. Our hero doesn't pick just one, he shouts that he wants every single power. The heroes say that is impossible, yet they are all suddenly dragged into his mark. Every single soul is sucked into the seal. Hisaki's crew is still lingering by the lake when a massive explosion rocks the water. Miraculously, one of the thugs actually had an umbrella ready for the splash. They cannot believe their eyes. That guy floating there, it's Kanagi, the loser they just killed. As our hero touches down before them, his gaze is cold. The thugs just keep mocking him, calling him a resilient cockroach. Kanagi spots a nearby stick and finds it surprisingly interesting. They laugh themselves silly, mocking him for trying to be some sort of John Wick using nothing but a twig. Kanagi does not flinch, he just keeps testing out his new moves. Then Hisaki speaks up. Dead serious, ordering his men to make sure the kid stays underwater this time. One goon draws his blade, promising to personally dump Kanagi back into the abyss. He launches a lethal strike, multiple slashes in under 1 second. He didn't even see the strike, he only felt his world shatter as his body collapsed. Hisaki and his heavy companion stood frozen. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. This wasn't the loser they once knew. Desperate, the heavy mage unleashed his absolute strongest spell. Kanagi had 0 mana, he should have been vaporized instantly, but fate had other plans. Instead, our hero just points a single finger, not a word, pure silence. Boom, lightning tears through the air, obliterating the massive target. Hard to miss something that big. Hisaki's jaw dropped. That was no chant magic. High-level stuff performed like it was nothing. That blade work, it was like watching a divine saint. A true master of the sword was standing right there. This power mirrored the spells of those ancient, legendary mages. The truth was insane. 106 legendary founders were now living inside Kanagi. Kanagi declares that history is being rewritten today, right here and now. And Hisaki, he'll just be the first villain erased by the legend of Kanagi Minato. As Kanagi steps forward, Hisaki trembles. The impossible reality is finally sinking in. The kid he discarded just swallowed the founder's souls using the crest of nothingness. Inside Kanagi's head, it's absolute chaos. Those founders are losing it. Trapped for hundreds of years in darkness, they're celebrating their freedom and already fighting over who gets to drive this new body first. During the madness, legendary swordsman Hinoki Reikaru speaks up, casually noting he's not surprised the boy knows his name. He simply asks what Kanaga's next move is. He ignores Hisaki like he's trash, pointing instead to a massive threat lurking right behind them. Locked in, Kanagi turns back to Hisaki, who's currently shaking like a leaf. The guy's bragging about being a rank, but Kanagi doesn't say a single word. He just throws one punch, and Hisaki is sent flying back. Then, his eyes drift to that mysterious bag. It's literally oozing dark, sinister energy. Suddenly, a massive blast of power erupts from the bag, taking even Kanagi by surprise. But Hinoki, he's just watching the show with a smug little smile. Back in the city, total carnage. A 3-headed wolf monster is tearing things apart. They call for Akin to step up. Without a second thought, he lunges into the fray. He strikes from above with perfect grace, unleashing a devastating waterfall impact attack on the beast. That A-rank monster was done for. One hit and it's over. The crowd erupts in cheers for their favorite S-rank hunter. Akin plays it cool, then asks for Hisaki. Sounds like he's busy with another interview. Must be nice being the world's young hope, right? Akin doesn't mind. After all, fame is good for the guild's bottom line. But just as they turn to walk away, a wave of pure terror suddenly washes over the entire city. People are screaming. Even low-rank hunters are dropping to their knees. Akin's teammates are struggling. Even A and B rankers can't handle this crushing pressure. It's an S-rank monster, no doubt, and it's coming straight from the founder's mausoleum. Back in the woods, a terrified Hisaki scrambles back as a nightmare crawls out of that bag. He's stuttering, desperate to know if it's a demon or something even worse. Kanagi just explains that by stealing those ancient relics, Hisaki just shattered the seal, holding back one of the tower's original boss monsters. Deep inside Kanaga's mind, Hinoki studies the beast with an expert's eye. He knows exactly what this is, the embodiment of emptiness, way beyond S-rank. He warns that its toxic aura alone could wipe out thousands. Monsters this scary were common back in his day, but for Hisaki, no way. He completely loses his mind and bolts, convinced that staying even one more second means certain death. But Kanagi knows exactly how a predator's instinct works. He warns that running just makes him easier to kill, but it's too late. The moment Hisaki moves, the monster strikes with absolutely terrifying speed. A massive tentacle shoots out at him, piercing straight through his chest before he can even get his sword up. That sword that once killed a dragon, it's completely useless against this thing. The creature's tendrils start crawling all over Hisaki's body. They drain his life force as his screams echo through the forest. Kanagi just stands there watching. He knew this was going to happen. As the hero dies, Hinoki's spirit places a heavy hand on Kanaga's shoulder. He offers to show off his one-handed sword style, clearly aiming for complete control of the body. Before Kanagi can even answer, the other founders quickly intervene. They grab Hinoki by the hair, accusing him of trying to hog their powerful new vessel. But Kanagi himself shuts them up. He lays down his own terms. No single founder gets total control. This body is going to be shared among every one of them. He declares that one day he'll surpass every single one of them and prove his worth through strength. If they want to use his body, they'll have to show him what real power actually looks like. Stunned by his sheer audacity, Hinoki just grins and readies his blade for battle, taking the first step. He merges his soul with Kanaga's and urges the others to follow him in. As Hinoki's spirit raises his blade, Kanaga's body mirrors the move, targeting the monster's limbs. Guided by a master's skill, the blade severs a massive arm in one clean strike. The beast retaliates with a furious swing, but Kanaga's body moves. Now infused with another founder's agility, he dodges with inhuman speed. Power stacks upon power as the spirits take turns in the driver's seat. One gives him the strength to catch the creature's tentacle and slam it down hard. The monster reels as Kanagi grabs a bow, peppering its hide with arrows. Then comes the barrage, whirlwinds, fire breath, and ice attacks. The beast tries a sneak attack from below, but Kanaga's eyes flash yellow. The great wizard inside him takes over, blasting the creature with lightning. With one final leap, Kanagi soars high. Hinoki takes the wheel again. He grabs the broken sword and executes his signature, one-handed wave-cutting blade. The blade slices the demon right in half, finally ending its rampage. As the two pieces fall, a victorious smile finally crosses Kanaga's face. Watching the whole fight from a nearby tree is a single raven. Somewhere else in the city, a man standing atop a skyscraper answers a call, shocked to hear the monster was defeated before he arrived. He asks if there were any high-level hunters present on the scene. All right, the voice on the line drops a bombshell. Raven footage proves an academy student took it down. The man, Ikehara Midori, the world's top-ranked Awakened, wants a face-to-face with this mysterious student. Next morning, Midori is lounging on a heap of monster corpses while calling the academy director. He mentions the S-rank beast, making it clear that someone else actually killed it. According to that Raven footage, it was Kannagi Minato. Midori finds that hard to swallow. Especially since Kannagi failed the hunter exam 3 years straight, he asks the director for one very special favor. Back at the academy, rumors are flying everywhere. That terrifying aura from yesterday left most of the students paralyzed with fear. And now they're all guessing who could have possibly slain such a monster. Meanwhile, Kannagi limps across campus, leaning on a stick, his entire body shaking uncontrollably. He catches their whispers, shocked that his secret fight is already the school's biggest gossip. Suddenly, a random student crashes right into him, knocking him down and mocking the idea that a weakling could ever be an S-rank slayer. Kannagi knows the truth. He won, but only by letting the founders possess his broken body. Now he's paying the price. The recoil from that power is absolutely brutal. As he struggles to stand, a mocking voice rings inside his mind. It's Hinoki, reminding him of his cocky promise to one day surpass them. With a teasing yet firm tone, Hinoki demands that he pull himself together. Kannagi remembers his oath and pushes through the agony, forcing himself up to reaffirm his goal. Hinoki chuckles within, telling him he'd better show some real resolve. The spirit scans the nearby students with a heavy sigh of pure disappointment. Awakeners today seem no better than ordinary humans, a joke compared to warriors from his era. He muses that if the tower appeared now, the entire world would be finished. But his thoughts vanish when he senses an incredibly powerful aura lurking nearby. Kannagi feels Hinoki's sudden tension, but the spirit quickly brushes it off. Just then, a professor calls out for Kannagi to come over. Assuming his expulsion letter arrived, he approaches with total caution. After all, he has failed 3 times, and there are absolutely no more chances left. But to his shock, the professor orders him to the field for a re-examination. Kannagi is stunned. Other students crowd the windows, whispering with frantic excitement. Nobody has ever been granted a hunter re-examination before. Out on the field, Kannagi takes a sprinter's stance. He's battered but determined. The first test, a 100-meter sprint. The bully from earlier starts trash-talking again, calling him a pathetic failure. But as the timer starts, everyone watches in shock as Kannagi finishes in 1.2 seconds, smashing the old record of 2.7. Next is the 30,000-meter run. He finishes in 1 minute and 17 seconds, crushing the record. It's the same story for every single test. Push-ups, bench press, you name it. He doesn't just break records, he doubles them. The entire student body is left speechless. Kannagi wonders if the founders are secretly helping him. But Hinoki assures him this power is all his. Meanwhile, Midori is studying Kanaga's file in the office. Headmaster admits Kanaga's physical scores are wild, but magic is the issue. For 3 years, his mana levels have stayed at a flat 0. Every single test has shown his power to be completely undetectable. That is the reason everyone saw him as a total failure. Midori's secretary just smirks. She knows things are about to get interesting. Out on the field, Kannagi faces the final hurdle, magic measurement. The professor explains that he must channel his mana and spin that fan for 30 seconds. The record is 4,022 rotations. Kannagi steps up. Suddenly, memories of failing this exact test year after year flood back. No matter how hard he tried, the fan never even budged during all those previous attempts. Sensing mana was always impossible for him, but this time feels different. For the first time, power surges through him, starting from his foot. It spirals through his core and flows back around again. He realizes his breathing controls the flow, letting him blast energy through his right palm. The professor gives the signal. Kannagi lets his mana explode outward. Boom! The fan starts spinning at a speed that defies logic. The machine struggles to track the insane spike in speed. Dust and wind roar everywhere, making it impossible to see the numbers. The speed hits a breaking point. Before anyone can react, the machine explodes. The fan tears loose completely. It flies like a giant blade, hurtling straight toward the main building. It smashes into the headmaster's office with an earth-shattering crash. Inside, the headmaster barely avoids the flying debris and dust. He collapses from the pure shock of the impact. The secretary is stunned. She cannot process the madness she witnessed. Meanwhile, Midori just laughs, completely unfazed by the chaos. To him, Kanagi's power looks exactly like his own. He knows. Only one person before this kid had ever broken the scale. That person was Midori himself, an immeasurable monster. The professor, still dazed by what he witnessed, declares Kanagi has passed the hunter exam. The crowd goes wild. The students erupt into cheers as the underdog finally wins. Kanagi didn't just break the record, he shattered every single expectation. Staring at his hands, he trembles in total disbelief. Years of believing he was powerless, yet the magic was there. It was hidden deep inside him all this time, waiting. Hinoki watches from the side with a satisfied grin. She knew. Kanagi knows everything has changed. Giving his body to the founders worked. He finally unlocked the massive potential that was dormant inside his soul. Hinoki cannot help but laugh. She knows the boy standing there is anything but ordinary. With that crest of nothingness, his fate is set. It feels like he has been waiting a century for this moment. A massive pressure suddenly crushes the area, sending a heavy shockwave through the air. The pure weight of it leaves him completely speechless. His brain is racing, trying to process the explosion. But Hinoki knows this aura. It is exactly what he felt earlier today. Right there, appearing out of thin air, stands the one and only Midori. Kanagi is stunned. This guy is literally the strongest hunter alive. Midori lands softly and looks him straight in the eyes. He actually gives him props for crushing the hunter exam. He offers some praise, but Kanagi is too shocked to speak. Then Midori drops a bombshell. You and I are looking at a special bonus test. All he has to do is land one single hit on the world's best. Kanagi just freezes. I mean, Midori is only 23 years old. He became a pro hunter at age 9, and now he is standing right there. His records are insane. Honestly, no one in history even comes close. We are talking about a man who turns thousands of demons to ash. His strength is so scary that even top hunters avoid him entirely. 10 years back, he wiped out the entire pandemonium outbreak alone. 5 years later, he crushed the Kyushu incident. He is a living miracle. You and I can see it. Kanagi simply cannot believe his ears. But Hinoki is hyped, begging Kanagi to just let him take control. The rules are simple. Kanagi has exactly 1 minute to land a hit. Success or failure, it does not matter. There are no bad consequences. Midori will only strike once every 10 seconds to keep things fair. No need to overthink this, no need for any doubt at all. Kanagi can use any skill or weapon he wants, anything goes. Meanwhile, Midori is going to hold back and use absolutely nothing. To prove it, he summons a massive pile of weapons for Kanagi to pick. Seeing all those legendary blades appear at once, talk about a surreal moment. Kanagi's thoughts are total chaos. Facing the legendary Midori one-on-one, he is still not quite sure. He hesitates, then asks if he really can use any weapon he likes. Instead of answering, Midori just calmly picks up a nearby katana. He holds it lightly, then snaps the blade in half like it is nothing. Seriously, it looked like he was breaking a dry twig. He calmly explains that his own body is sharper than any sword out there. Kanagi is still processing that when Hinoki starts losing his mind with impatience. He is furious, demanding to take over because he cannot stand Midori's cocky attitude. Pure rage. It overflows as he shouts that Midori's words are totally unforgivable. Suddenly, Kanagi feels Hinoki's energy absolutely exploding inside him. His presence is growing. He is ready to unleash every bit of his power. That is when it hits him. Midori is as strong as the original founders. Honestly, against a monster like that, he has zero chance of winning. But even with that reality check, there is no time left to hesitate. Meanwhile, all the students gather to watch the fight. Just like that, Midori starts the clock. A tiny smirk plays on his face as he signals the test start. Kenki doesn't waste time. gripping his sword and charging straight at Midori for a determined opening strike. Hinoki yells from the sidelines, questioning if he really plans to go solo. It's totally unfair. But Kenki ignores him, staying locked in and continuing his desperate assault. He knows it might be pointless, but in his mind, to become a true legend. He's gotta rely on his own grit, instead of just riding the founder's coattails. He takes a massive swing at Midori. But the guy just glides away, even as Kenki throws everything he has at him. Midori stays on his phone, casually asking which social media apps he uses, remarking that this entire incident is definitely going to go viral. The other students can only watch in disbelief. Midori is dodging everything without even taking this seriously. Even as Kenki continues his relentless assault, one observant student notices something strange about his movements. Looking closer, Kenki raises his sword for a fake vertical slash, before instantly switching to a horizontal strike aimed at Midori's feet and throat. The execution is perfect. Kenki is actually stunned by how naturally his body is reacting to the fight. He isn't even tired. He wonders if this is actually the effect of using the founder's power. But his internal monologue is cut short when Midori brings a finger to his head, ready to flick him, casually noting that 10 seconds have already passed. Kenki barely manages to dodge. But the sheer force Midori releases completely obliterates the training field. Seeing the crater, Kenki realizes that if that hit had landed, his head would be gone. Midori looks at his own hand, looking a bit confused. He didn't feel any malice from Kenki, wondering if he just underestimated his own strength. Pure panic hits Kenki. He knows if this keeps up, he's a dead man. Desperately, he tries to recall the feeling of his stronger self. As he focuses, a massive aura surges out, catching Midori completely off guard. Kenki lunges forward again, his speed hitting levels that shouldn't even be possible. The students are losing it, shouting that the cameras can't even track their movements anymore. Midori feels the sudden shift in Kenki's presence, and wonders if this power has a hidden trigger, or if Kenki is just keeping secrets. Realizing another 10 seconds are up, Midori decides to go a bit easier on him this time around. He ducks down, winding up that devastating finger flick once more. But instead of the head, he hits Kenki's chest, sending him crashing hard into the wall. Kenki coughs up blood, but strangely, he's actually finding the experience incredible. He's actually trading blows with the world's strongest Awakened. It's unreal. He knows that, if his body were the same as it was just yesterday, that one blow would have ended his life on the spot. This thought makes him grin. It's proof that he's actually evolving. However, he also knows his current skills aren't enough to pass Midori's insane test. Determined, he chooses to use pure brute force and charges at Midori one more time. Suddenly, Midori appears right beside him with godlike speed, forcing Kenki to freeze in his tracks. Apologizing, Midori tells him he's seen enough. He then says the 30 seconds are over before striking the boy's neck, making him slowly drift into unconsciousness. As Kenki falls to the floor, Midori admits the kid is a genius, just not on the level of his old comrades yet. Kenki just can't seem to unleash that hidden potential Midori was picking up on. Calling his assistant, he admits it's time to pack up, totally let down by the result, but Kenki grips his blade, and Midori feels a massive pressure suddenly explode. He looks back to find Kenki literally overflowing with power. It's Hinoki now, using his voice, joking that the stubborn kid finally passed out, leaving him in total control. Stepping up, Hinoki suggests they keep this party going longer. Meanwhile, Kenki's soul is floating nearby, freaking out as he watches his body move. But Midori just smiles. This was the aura he was expecting. He wonders if it's a new soul or just some skill. Either way, one thing is clear. Kenki has become a monster. Suddenly, the possessed Kenki launches a fierce strike. Shouting at Midori to focus, his rhythm has completely shifted now. His speed and raw power, totally next level. A blade flashes toward Midori's eyes, and he barely ducks the blow. Another swing follows, forcing Midori to leap back for safety. Still rattled, Midori watches Kenki reset his stance for another kill. He strikes again, but Midori drops low just in time, letting the slash absolutely demolish the building behind them. Inside, the students are scrambling in a total panic. These slashes are wild and unpredictable, but Midori is starting to adapt. It feels like ancient sword arts, moving like a crushing waterfall. Raising a hand, Midori laughs, noting this level of skill is exactly what an S rank needs. He lifts his palm again, planning to knock Kenki out, noting only 40 seconds have actually passed. But Kenki lunges forward with some truly insane speed, swinging wildly while screaming that Midori won't be able to touch him. Midori backflips to dodge, laughing as he enjoys this incredible display. The students are speechless. Their unbeatable S rank is actually on the defensive. Kenki calls him boring, demanding that he stop holding back. He warns Midori that if he keeps playing, he'll get beat up. Without pausing, Kenki charges, and Midori finally gives him a fine. With a sharp kick, Midori sends a rock flying back. Suddenly, all the weapons float. He leaps up, catching Kenki off guard, and snatches a blade midair. Excited, Kenki yells that he's finally going all out. Then, they collide in the air, clashing blow for blow while the students watch in pure awe. They grab every weapon available, shattering them with sheer physical force. Inside Kenki's mind, the ancient founders watch Hinoki go wild. They're stunned that Midori is actually keeping up. One spirit wants in on the fun, but gets called a tactless idiot. The Grand Wizard, watching closely, notices something strange. Kenki is actually learning. He spots Hinoki shifting his weight, ready to pounce from below. But the moment they clash, his sword shatters once again. Hinoki is absolutely furious at these low-quality blades, while Midori's having the time of his life. Look, he's out of swords. Will Kenki resort to firearms? Midori just watches with a taunting smirk. Midori shouts that only 10 seconds remain. What's the plan now, Hinoki? Hinoki eyes the building behind him and makes a desperate leap. He targets the guy who pushed Kenki earlier and rips his sword away. Just then, Midori closes the gap, throwing a heavy fist at Hinoki. Boom, the impact creates a massive explosion against the stone walls. Luckily, Hinoki dodges just in time, reappearing right in Midori's face. The fight continues midair, a high-speed exchange of lethal blows. Midori's loving it, shouting that they should keep this going a bit longer. Below, the students watch the building start to crumble, while the secretary looks on with zero concern. Midori reaches out, grabbing a massive fan, cracks spiderweb across the surface from his sheer grip. He rips it from the structure and aims it straight at Hinoki. He hurls it with insane force, but Hinoki's about to pull something off. With a single-handed blade, Hinoki slashes through it using his dice-style sword art. The fan explodes into tiny bits. Midori's thrilled, the kid actually has skills. Still, Hinoki launches his blade at Midori, but it just shatters on impact. Absolutely shocking. Midori raises his hand, aiming it right at him. He notes 60 seconds have passed before hitting Hinoki with a devastating palm strike. He's sent crashing down. He curses under his breath, but Kenki suddenly leaps onto his back, pushing him away toward safety. As Midori's follow-up nears, Kenki deflects the strike with a smooth, gentle motion to dodge it. That move, it leaves both Hinoki and Midori completely stunned. However, the sheer power of the deflection breaks one of Kenki's hands. He doesn't flinch. Instead, he focuses and throws one last punch, landing it squarely against Midori's face with his good hand. You can feel it. This battle of singularities feels like eternity. It's like a high-stakes chess match between two players who refuse to lose an inch. Despite the insane intensity, Hinoki realizes the whole exchange only lasted a few heartbeats. He watches with pride as Kenki carves out a brand new path to victory. But Kenki freezes when he sees Midori stop his fist at the last second. Pure frustration kicks in. He missed his shot, or so he thought. Midori actually smiles, pulling Kenki's fist into his own face as a sign of respect for his effort. Without missing a beat, he confirms it. Kenki has officially passed. Before another word is said, both of them collapse from exhaustion. The watching students are left whispering, trying to wrap their heads around that fight. Midori, still holding Kenki's unconscious body, calls for his secretary, Rin. It's time for them to head out. Rin asks for the verdict. Midori admits Kenki passed because he's actually found him interesting. But here is the catch. Midori admits he accidentally snapped Kenki's arm and asks Rin for a quick heal. She agrees without missing a beat. Nearby students eavesdropping can hardly believe it. Did Kenki actually pull it off? Reality finally sinks in, and the cheers start. The whole area erupts because Kenki actually managed to land a solid hit on Midori. The roar of the crowd wakes Kenki up. Rin starts healing him, warning him to stay still. He listens and thanks her. Rin just smiles and congratulates him on passing the exam. Kenki is still in shock. He bolts upright, asking if he really managed to land that blow on Midori. But before he can even wrap his head around it, Midori suddenly teleports right next to him, clearly amused. He keeps it simple. A pass is a pass, period. He admits he actually had to get serious halfway through that last assault. Midori starts praising the kid's raw skill. He is impressed by how Kenki dodged his best move with such insane speed. He tells Kenki to take pride in his massive achievement. Kenki finally calms down and accepts the compliment. Without missing a beat, he asks what's next. What happens now that he has actually passed? Rin looks a bit confused by the question as she turns to Midori. Midori looks just as stumped, searching for an answer. Later that night, Kanagi is back home helping his mom clean while she is busy cooking. She casually asks how many guests are coming over. Kanagi isn't really sure, so he just guesses one person. His mom reflects on the day, saying this whole thing is a massive deal. Passing the hunter exam is huge, but catching Midori's eye, that is next level. She says she always believed in him. She truly thinks he can do anything if he just puts in the work. Kanagi just listens quietly, really appreciating her support. But then her expression shifts. She is worried about a celebrity visiting their humble home. She even jokes people might mistake it for a doghouse. Kanagi just sighs and tells her she is overthinking it. He is sure Midori isn't the judgmental type. After finishing the chores, he finally collapses onto his bed, exhausted. But his mind is still racing from everything that happened today. He looks at the card Midori gave him, and a wave of uncertainty hits him. He wonders why Midori didn't think this whole situation through more carefully. He flashes back to the battlefield earlier, remembering how Rin had pinned Midori down and twisted his leg. He can still hear Midori's scream of pain from when Rin confronted him. At that moment, Midori reminded Kanagi about something he supposedly said earlier. He claims Kanagi agreed to join his squad if they won. Kanagi is totally confused and denies saying anything like that. Rin, getting more annoyed by the second, just tightens her grip on Midori's leg. Midori points out the crowd watching them and suggests they meet at his place tonight to discuss everything properly. Hey, he promised to explain their options and finally reveal who their real enemies are. Kanagi can only wonder who these enemies actually are. He knows the tower was already destroyed, and hunters are just meant to kill monsters from the dimensional cracks. Is there a deeper reason? He wonders for a bit before drifting off to sleep. Suddenly, Hinoki's shouting jolts our main character wide awake. He finds Hinoki and the other founders crowded into his room. Totally lost, he asks what's going on, but Hinoki just says they're finished with their meeting. It feels off. Still confused, Kanagi covers up instinctively, terrified they've already picked someone to take over his body. Before Hinoki can answer him, the doorbell rings. Thinking it's Midori, Kanagi apologizes and heads for the door, suggesting they talk later. The hallway is dark and creepy. Then, total shock, his mom is collapsed on the floor. Pure panic hits. He rushes to her side, screaming, but stops when he sees a stranger sitting in the kitchen. This guy is just chilling, eating the food Kanaga's mom had prepared. He's even complimenting the meal while ignoring the chaos. Then, he mockingly tells Kanagi to discipline his mother. He even says they need better quality food if Kanagi wants to impress any real customers. Kanagi snaps, demanding to know who this guy is and what happened to his mom. The man doesn't even blink. He just screams at Kanagi to watch his tone. He reveals he's Heitani Guru, an S-rank hunter and an old comrade of Midori. Heitani orders Kanagi to pack his bags for their new base. Kanagi is absolutely fuming. Without thinking, he throws a heavy punch right at Heitani's face. But Heitani dodges easily, appearing behind him to ask if he's actually starting a fight. Kanagi stays quiet, his mother's words echoing in his mind. She promised to raise him with pride after his father passed away. He remembers her worn-out shoes and how she always insisted on buying him new sneakers instead. He remembers her being so proud earlier, promising his favorite tonkatsu for dinner. Now he's determined. Kanagi glares at Heitani, demanding to know what he really did to his mother. Watching this, Hinoki realizes Heitani is a legendary S-rank hunter from the old days. Hinoki's annoyed by this Midori knockoff and decides it's finally time to step in and act. After seeing Kanagi's skill earlier, the founders finally understand exactly how to treat him. Heitani just smirks, taunting Kanagi by calling his angry face pretty cute. He swings a hand to slap him, but Kanagi doesn't even flinch. As the strike closes in, Kanagi effortlessly grabs the hand and swings him around like it's nothing. Grandpa Founder is stunned. He knows that move. It's a technique from their old battles against monsters. Suddenly, Heitani is sent flying through the window and the backyard wall. But he's an S-rank for a reason, landing perfectly on his feet. Heitani shakes it off and walks back, trying to process what just happened. Was that Aikido? He thinks back to Kanagi's fight with Midori from earlier that day. He'd felt Kanagi's massive aura and sword skills, but there's some other strange power here. Heitani admits the kid is tough, maybe even tougher than himself. Kanagi's patience is gone. And he wants answers. He demands to know what's happening to his mother, who's still in agony as poison spreads. Heitani just bursts out laughing. He mockingly points out that Kanagi is completely clueless about what's really going on. Then, with a twisted grin, he finally tells him the truth. His mother was an obstacle, so he poisoned her. Heitani smirks, claiming that if she is lucky, she will only suffer minor side effects. He stays calm, claiming he just doesn't understand, which leaves Heitani looking totally confused. Then he asks why they would hurt the family of someone who might actually become their comrade. Heitani just laughs at the word comrade. Suddenly, the villain appears right behind him, ready to strike. He barely dodges the blow, but the relentless assault just keeps coming. While attacking, Heitani sneers that he is no comrade. He is just a puppet meant to follow orders. Heitani taunts him, saying once his family are hostages, he will have no choice but to surrender. Man, talk about being naive. Before he can react, Heitani pins his foot down and slashes him, mockingly asking if he was right. He quickly retreats, feeling a sharp burning sensation spreading across his cheek. Touching the wound, he realizes the lethal poison is already starting to spread. Heitani grins and lifts his fingers, revealing they are now tipped with sharp, poison-laced needles. He teases that the toxin is already inside. He reveals his body can produce dozens of lethal toxins, a technique he calls phantom bugs poison, deadly vision. Heitani then starts complaining about how inconvenient this whole mission is. He says if he wanted to, he could release a toxic gas cloud over a 5-kilometer radius, but doing that in the city center is not an option. He states the poison will kill him in 1 minute unless he agrees to join their organization. If he complies, Heitani will give him the antidote, otherwise he is dead. He realizes just how lethal this toxin really is. It would be an inescapable death sentence for any normal human being. Looking down at his hand, he calls out to Valentine, the god of medicine, asking if she is still within him. The other founders look at a confused and surprised Valentine. He apologizes for calling on her so suddenly, asking if she can teach him how to neutralize this poison a bit later. She stammers an agreement. Annoyed, Heitani throws another wave of poison at him, screaming and asking what kind of nonsense he is mumbling. He quickly dodges, explaining that the Aikido move he used earlier came from Kyujuhuma, the god of hands. The old man inside him is totally taken aback, realizing the kid managed to copy his move after seeing it just once. Next, he calls on Hinoki, the 10,000 army slasher, and Shimer Kalkus, the blue spear of destruction, and Margit, the heavenly bow. He says he studied and memorized every single one from the records. He tells Heitani that the founders he used to worship are now living inside him. This leaves Heitani completely bewildered, but instead of showing fear, the villain gets furious. He screams that he will show him what real pain is before charging with his needles ready. He leaps away just in time, narrowly avoiding the attack. The strike hits a nearby tree, which withers and dies instantly. Heitani does not hesitate. He launches another attack, shouting that if he kneels and begs for mercy, he might get an antidote to make the pain slightly more bearable. He warns him that once pain consumes him, he will never be normal. His mind will be lost to madness, but he stays silent, waiting as that hand gets closer. Just as Heitani reaches him, the young man quickly slides to the side. Pressing his palm against Heitani's chest, he unleashes the power of Saint Wantak's fist. Heitani's internal damage is severe. He's spitting blood, leaving the spirit of Wantak totally speechless. The impact sends Heitani flying right into a metal streetlight. He doesn't stop there. Immediately, he fires off a blazing kick using Eilerson's Feet of Light. Heitani is launched back, soaring across the battlefield. Eilerson is stunned by such raw strength. Surprisingly, Heitani forces himself up and recovers in record time. Within a heartbeat, he's back in Heitani's face, raining down a flurry of dual hand strikes. He slips through the counter-attack, shattering Heitani's needles with effortless precision. Next up is the sharp beak coral attack, slamming right into Heitani's gut. Then, Kannagi delivers a brutal slash using Rowan's dragon's claw. Rowan himself is left totally floored by the display. Heitani grabs him, but he counters with Lalex's flipper, tossing the villain through the air. As he floats, Heitani's mind starts racing. His poison should have paralyzed the kid's nervous system and clouded his mind by now. Yet Kannagi is moving perfectly, strong, fast, and completely unaffected. Finally, Kannagi prepares the megas of truth, unleashing Melty's Silentius on his foe. A massive blast of energy erupts, leaving every witness in total shock. Hinoki turns to the founders, asking if they saw that insane feat. He points out that after crushing Heitani, Kannagi started perfectly copying every physical and magical move they own. To Hinoki, the origin of this power, even the crest of nothingness, doesn't really matter. He just finds the boy fascinating. The founders agree. Hinoki suggests they train the kid personally. With their help, he's destined to become the ultimate Awakener. Elsewhere, a group of mysterious hooded figures are leaping across the city's rooftops. Their leader shouts for everyone to move faster. Nemo's guilds are hunting Kannagi too. They have to grab the boy before the competition gets their hands on him. Suddenly, Midori appears behind him, casually asking if there are really that many enemies. The man is terrified. Midori tells him that if 15 were sent, he must be the last survivor. He taps the man's forehead, flips his head around, and slams him face first into the concrete roof. He pings Rin via Raven's call. She picks up instantly, confirming she's already reached the destination. She promises him no Awakeners are nearby, but her next words are a total shock. Someone else got here first, Rin reports. Midori stays silent, waiting for more. Rin explains the intruder was the S-rank poison specialist, Heitani. He came for the boy, but he's been completely and utterly dismantled. Midori looks over to find Heitani sprawled on the roof, mouth agape and totally out of it. It leaves Midori, wondering what kind of monster Kannagi is. A short while later, the group arrives at Kannagi's home. Midori claps his hands with a massive grin, showering the young man with genuine praise. He admits he never expected Kannagi to take down a legendary hunter like Heitani. Then he asks the big question, was Kannagi exposed to the poison? Kannagi just scratches his cheek, looking a bit sheepish. My mom and I are totally fine. Hinoki isn't impressed and simply crosses his arms. He reminds Kannagi that without Valentine's help, he never would have survived the night. Hearing her name, Valentine lets out a tired, exhausted groan. Hinoki quickly gave her props for the speed, noting 5 seconds for all that work was seriously impressive. Valentine just shrugged it off, muttering that it wasn't even a challenge for her. With the poison's creator right there. A few quick jabs were all they needed to snag blood samples and find the cure. Kannagi was still reeling, but one burning question finally forced its way out of him. Was Heitani totally lying about being Midori's comrade after all? Midori didn't hesitate to nod. Confirming it was a total fabrication. Apparently, people use his name for clout all the time. Now that that was settled, his focus shifted right back over to Rin. He asked if she was finished, and right on cue, she appeared. Everything was fixed, she confirmed. Kanaga's eyes went wide in pure shock. He looked at his house, and somehow, the window and wall were back to being totally flawless. With a cheerful smile, Midori suggested they head inside to map out the young man's entire future. Kannagi just stood there, paralyzed. A weird mix of pure hype and deep unease washed right over him. By the next morning, a sleek car was already waiting there for Kannagi. And his mother saw him off. She kept asking if he'd forgotten to pack anything important. But he just waved it off, telling her she was definitely worrying way too much. She could barely wrap her head around the fact her boy was actually going with Midori. Midori had given her his word. He'd protect the kid and turn him into a legendary hunter. That made Kannaga's heart race with excitement, but his mom, she couldn't shake that motherly worry. Hiding her anxiety, she handed over his lunch, reminding him he hadn't eaten a single bite for breakfast. He didn't need it, but Kannagi took the lunch without arguing a bit. Then his mother asked point-blank if her son would be in danger. Midori's answer? Absolutely. She confessed that Kannagi had always had it rough up until this point. So trusting Midori with her son was a huge deal, but as a mother, she still felt uneasy. Midori, full of confidence, swore he'd train the boy until every single weakness vanished. Hearing that, she finally let her son go. Inside the car, Rin, who's behind the wheel, looks over at Midori. She asks if it was actually okay to make such a heavy promise to the kid's mother. Especially since they have no idea what's actually about to go down. A tiny flash of worry hits Midori. He looks in the mirror and sees Kannaga's mom still shouting out some last-second, motherly advice. She's yelling about the right way to wash his clothes and stuff. Warning him not to sleep naked or he'll get sick. Seeing that love makes Midori's eyes burn with determination. He quietly swears he'll give it his all. Meanwhile, Kannagi chokes back his feelings and says his very last goodbye. Right as the door is closing, his mom reminds him to be back home for the new year. Driving away, Midori asks if he's holding up. Kannagi admits he was barely keeping it together back there. Midori just kicks back in his seat, telling the kid to just relax and do whatever, like grabbing some food or catching some sleep. Looking over, Kannagi notices the lunch his mom packed sitting neatly on the seat beside him. He pops it open, his mother's voice echoing in his head. As he lifts that lid, he sees a tiny good luck note tucked right on top of the pork cutlet. That simple gesture hits hard, stirring up every single emotion he expected. He pauses for a second, reflecting on every sacrifice and act of care she gave him. A deep sense of gratitude settles in his chest as he starts to eat, even though the meal is seasoned with the sting of unshed tears. Rin and Midori share a quick look from the side, choosing to remain quiet, letting him process everything in his own way as they continue their journey. As they reach their destination, Kannagi is left completely stunned. He stares up at the massive, imposing anti-prophecy headquarters building. Midori welcomes him, noting that only a tiny elite of Awakeners ever step foot inside. The sheer weight of that truth sinks in. For a moment, the pressure feels overwhelming. Realizing the massive role he is now inheriting. High above, a man watches from a window, tracking their arrival with cold, sharp intensity. Looking back, he tells the others in the room that the new members have finally arrived. A girl with a blank expression asks if this is really about the rookie, A young man notes it is extremely rare to get a new comrade. But a third man standing nearby seems openly skeptical. He insists they must first determine if the new guy is truly worthy of joining the anti-prophecy unit. Meanwhile, outside the base, he stands frozen, trying to make sense of this new world. A million questions flood his mind. What is this unit? You and I have to wonder if it links to the Ikehara Guild. Rin senses his confusion, apologizing for keeping him in the dark until now. She explains that even his mother cannot know everything because it is all classified. This is a top national secret. That revelation hits him much harder than expected. Heading toward the entrance, Midori suggests they take his bags to the dorms first. Rin tries to help, but he refuses, insisting he can carry his own weight. Just as he turns to leave, a loud voice echoes through the air, telling them to wait. The sudden shout startles him. He looks up and sees the young man from earlier standing above. Without hesitation, the man announces that he is the one who will explain everything. Then, in a sudden flash, he lunges forward with an explosive kick, aiming right for his head. He raises his arms to block, but the raw power shatters the pavement beneath his feet. A massive tremor ripples straight through him, but he remains standing, stubbornly bracing against the intense shock. The attacker looks impressed, acknowledging his grit with a rare word of praise. Intrigued, our hero pauses for a second before asking who this guy is. Not missing a beat. The man flips back, landing perfectly on the ground below. He introduces himself as Hanada Hikataru, a proud member of the anti-prophecy unit and his new comrade. The reveal is a total surprise, but there is no time for hesitation. Hanada is here to explain the truth, and ready or not. The real story is about to unfold. Meanwhile, Midori is totally unfazed. He just asks Rin for some tea. She pours a cup while the two boys continue to clash. Midori watches them with a calm, steady gaze. Kanagi questions why comrades would even be fighting like this. Hanada stays cool, claiming this clash serves a dual purpose: introducing the anti-prophecy unit while testing our boys' actual limits. The answer lingers in Kanaga's mind, leaving him wondering what kind of test he's actually in. Then, out of nowhere, Hanada strikes again with a lightning-fast kick. Kanaga's reflexes are sharp, blocking the blow with both arms while holding his ground. Right in the heat of battle, Hanada explains the unit's origins, but Kanagi can't help but feel a bit skeptical. Would a guy really spill the whole truth in the middle of a fistfight? Mid-clash, Hanada pauses to ask for his opponent's name before diving back into the details. Zero hesitation. He introduces himself as Kanagi Minato, while nearby, Midori sips tea and reflects on the endless trials this kid faces. First the academy. Then Midori himself, even in S-rank, now it's this new elite challenge. He asks Rin if Kanagi is destined to be tested like this forever. Rin stays calm, noting that being personally scouted comes with a heavy price tag. Meanwhile, Hanada unleashes a relentless barrage of kicks, but Kanagi's guard is absolute, his endurance never wavering. Suddenly, Hanada shifts gears, asking what the true role of a hunter is. Kanagi answers instantly. A hunter's job is to wipe out the monsters spilling from dimensional cracks. Hanada flashes a quick thumbs up, confirming that our main character got the answer right. He compares hunting to simple pest control, a blunt but incredibly accurate analogy. Suddenly, Hanada drops his guard slightly, pivoting the conversation with a brand new question. He asks Kanagi about the dangers lurking outside of those dimensional rifts. That curveball catches Kanagi off guard. He hesitates, asking for some much-needed clarification on what that means. Hanada's expression turns grim as he explains that the world faces threats far deadlier than mere cracks. He recalls horrific events, like the 10,000 Demon Castle from 10 years ago and the massive Kyushu outbreak 5 years back. Kanagi knows them well. These were catastrophic dimensional breaks. Nightmares that left permanent scars on history, but before he can even blink, Hanada lunges in for the kill. Pure instinct takes over as Kanagi raises his guard to block. The sheer force sends him sliding. Hanada is impressed by the kid's grit and memory. He praises him for knowing the public details of those past disasters so well. Then he notes that Kannagi will uncover the dark truth once his training at the academy officially begins. As Kannagi steadies himself and finds his rhythm once again, the world blurs. Hinata suddenly appears right above him with terrifying, godlike speed. There's no time to even think. Hinata's leg is already descending in a massive, bone-crushing axe kick. Kannagi throws himself back, barely dodging as Hinata's foot obliterates the ground where he stood. A massive tree catches the hit instead, splitting cleanly in half. The raw power of that strike leaves Kannagi completely stunned. Hinata stands tall, his tone shifting as he continues the lesson. Hinata explains that 300 years ago, the Tower of Malevolence was no mere accident. It was a full-scale invasion. We are talking direct attacks from another dimension, and Kannagi is struggling to wrap his head around those words. History is not just history anymore, it is happening right now. Hinata steps closer, his expression looking deadly serious. He admits that modern-day Awakeners simply do not compare to the legends who fought in the Tower era. There just are not many left. Nobody can match the original founder's power anymore, and that reality clearly eats at him. Caught between curiosity and pure dread, Kannagi finally works up the nerve to ask the big question. So what do we do? Hinata does not hesitate. That is exactly why this unit exists. See, the people who can actually predict these disasters do not exactly share that terrifying info with the general public. They only talk to the elites, the ones who can actually stop the apocalypse. And those elites, Hinata makes it clear, they are the members of the anti-prophecy unit. Midori and Rin cannot help but beam with pride as they hear those words. Kannagi finally gets it. Their whole mission is to prevent these prophecies from breaking. Then comes the big reveal. As of today, he is officially part of the squad. Hinata welcomes him, impressed that Kannagi is the first guy to ever block his kicks one after another. He holds out a hand, and Kannagi takes it, sealing the deal. Midori and Rin applaud, but then Hinata calls out to the other Awakeners lurking above the house. He asks what they are doing, but they just stare him down before vanishing, leaving Kannagi completely stunned by their sudden exit. Midori jokes that they are acting like villains, but Hinata just shakes his head. He knows they just want to see how this plays out. Hinata tells Midori to leave the rest to him, and she takes off without a word. After that, Hinata helps him grab his things and offers to show him the dorms. Kannagi is grateful. That night, Kannagi lies awake, trying to process what this organization really represents for the world. It is all about fighting fate itself. He wonders if the original founders faced this same crisis, and if he is now part of some ancient, predicted war. The anxiety starts to bite. But then a voice cuts through the dark, telling him he's simply trained. He spins around to find Hinoki and the other founders standing right there in his room. He is quick to apologize for not checking in with them sooner. But Hinoki tells him to relax. They have made a choice. As the founders, they have decided to train him to be the world's strongest Awakener. With their help, he could become the strongest ever, acting as their personal disciple. Kannagi is floored. He asks if they are actually serious about taking him on. Hinoki nods, but then teases that it might spark a literal battle royale between them. A worried Kannagi begs them not to start fighting over him. Hinoki explains that was the plan. But after watching him, the founders have had a change of heart about his potential. Instead of just using him, they have realized that training him is going to be way more fun. Hinoki drops a bombshell, explaining that when Kannagi defeated that poison user, he had actually mimicked every single move. Sure, they weren't perfect, but he had absorbed the core fundamentals at lightning speed. Hinoki asks if he realizes how insane this is, mentioning it is likely due to his legendary crest of nothingness. However, his true gift was his terrifyingly high learning speed. Hinoki makes it clear. This raw talent actually surpasses the innate abilities of the original founders. Listening to this, Kannagi feels hot tears starting to blur his vision. He recalls his former trainers and their disappointed glares. They all claimed he had zero potential, Until this moment, nobody ever expected greatness from him. It feels like a complete dream, especially after being treated like garbage for failing that hunter's exam 3 times in a row. He still hears his classmates' laughter. Those mocking voices told him to quit. He was just a nameless face in the crowd, totally ignored because he didn't matter. No one believed in him, and he had finally gotten used to being invisible. But now, 2 of the most famous figures alive, Midori and Hinoki, are actually recognizing his worth. He can barely process it. It almost makes him wonder if he truly deserves this sudden joy. He had looked up to them for years, never imagining they would place their trust in him. Noticing his shock, Hinoki steps closer with a kind smile and rests a hand on his shoulder. He tells the boy not to let his emotions overwhelm him just yet. Then comes the big reveal. Their souls are residing inside him, active while he sleeps. This connection gives him access to a mental realm that defies time and space. With that set, they reveal his punishing new training schedule. By day, he will grind with the anti-prophecy squad. By night, he will continue his lessons within his own dreams. A good night's rest is officially over, but he is already prepared for the struggle. He accepts their offer immediately, ready to follow their lead no matter what. Morning arrives. Hinata is washing up in the bathroom when he spots our protagonist walking in. They swap a quick hello, but the kid looks absolutely drained. He is visibly exhausted. And he admits he hasn't gotten used to this insane schedule yet. Hinata gets it, remembering his own struggle when he first moved into the dorms. But then Hinata notices something strange, a heavy, powerful aura leaking from the guy. Intrigued, Hinata acts on impulse and throws a sudden high-speed kick. With total ease, he just ducks his head, spits out the water, and starts walking away. He doesn't even glance back. He ignores Hinata's childish stunt. He tells him he has no time for games this early and is heading to the cafeteria. Hinata stands there in shock. His attack was faster than ever, yet he was dodged effortlessly. A bit later, inside the cafeteria, Hinata finds a decent spot and walks over to a woman eating some fruit. He asks if they can join her, and she gives a very brief, cold nod. Hinata takes a seat across from her and signals for his friend to sit down. And then he recognizes her. You and I are back with Hinata's comrade, but she still seems cold and distant. Every word she speaks is stiffly formal. Clearly, she wanted him gone already. He tries anyway, offering a polite and friendly introduction. Total indifference, instant cold shoulder. She does not care about his name, let alone intend to remember it. She actually raises a fork, pointing it right at him, declaring he only gets a name when he is worthy. For now, training is everything. Now, he is stuck following her on a mission to stop an ancient prophecy. This prophecy dates all the way back to 1945, found 3,000 meters under the Antarctic ice. They call this relic the Book of Doom. The writing looks like a messy child's scribble, yet it predicts a total nightmare future. It claims that 80 years later, the world will face a brutal invasion and endless apocalyptic disasters. These predictions were so heavy, everyone took them deadly serious. Now, here is where you and I see her start testing his mind while driving. He takes a second to think, realizing he still does not even know what her name is. Before he can ask, she shuts him down. No introductions needed, she just wants his answer. He guesses the predictions must be accurate, but she snaps back immediately. She scoffs at him, basically calling him an idiot to his face. According to her, if even one page of that book comes true, we are all dead. That hits him hard. Stunned, he asks Hinata just how many prophecies they are actually tracking. Hinata guesses around 200, which leaves our hero completely speechless. He wonders if the world is already way past its expiration date. But Midori quickly steps in, reassuring him that they have already stopped nearly 180 prophecies. That is actually insane. Still reeling from the scale of it, he asks why people believe this book so much. She explains that a legendary explorer, Bernard Russell, was the one who found it. The very second Bernard opened it, the first page literally greeted him by name with a perfect timestamp. March 17, 1945, 11:35 a.m., sunny weather. It matched his discovery perfectly. No room for doubt. Hours pass, and they finally hit their destination, Tokyo's Sumida Ward. A nasty intermediate-level dimensional crack just opened up here. As they approach, heavily armed guards block the way, yelling that the area is off-limits, but our crew, they just ignore it. They blur past with blinding speed, leaving guards in the dust, but he hesitates, wondering if it is actually okay to keep going. Hanada gives him the thumbs up, while the woman explains the scale of this crisis. She mentions global threats like World War III and the mysterious dark side of the moon, invasive pandemics and those weird floating trees, all top-tier, world-ending emergencies. And out of those, the pandemonium outbreak Midori stopped was easily the most terrifying of the bunch. The Book of Doom is famous, sure, but it is just one of many grimoires hidden worldwide. The Anti-Prophecy Unit is built to gather intel and strike before these dark futures ever happen. Finally, she breaks down the threat levels they face. Get ready. Take Rank 3, for example. It meant entire regions getting wiped out. Rank 2, a national disaster, but Rank 1 meant the whole planet's environment was in total jeopardy. Then, there was the special rank, only used when the entire world was facing absolute destruction. He listened intently. As the seriousness of it all hit him, he froze. Panicked, he asked if these insane missions were really all on their shoulders now. The woman didn't blink. She confirmed it. These duties were just part of the Anti-Prophecy Unit. A bit later, Akin and his squad spotted them crossing the line and moved in for a confrontation. Assuming they were just clueless civilians, Akin yelled at them to back off before they got killed. She just brushed him off. According to her, today's prophecy was only a Rank 3 event. The crack in space looked like a basic intermediate B-rank portal. But it was actually a much deadlier, a Rank Level 3 disaster called the Yellow Journal. She knew it would expand. Right on cue, the rift started tearing wider at terrifying speeds. Akin spun around. Pure horror filled his eyes as the fissure ripped wide open before him. Suddenly, a tide of monsters began pouring out, each more hideous than the last. He barked orders for his squad to engage, but the counterattack was swift and beyond brutal. The creatures tore through his lines in seconds, slaughtering everyone with zero effort. Panic flared. He cursed, desperate and overwhelmed, seeing that even his B and C rank hunters couldn't hold the line. Then he felt something truly ancient and dangerous. That crushing pressure coming from a boss monster. He watched the newcomer walk forward. Akin tried to stop them, shouting for them to stay back. Before he could even finish his sentence, she slammed her hand down, chanting the spell Trismegistus. Boom! Jagged spears erupted from the earth, impaling the monsters in one swift, cold-blooded strike. Their corpses slumped as blood hit the pavement. That's when Hanada joined the fray, too. He lunged forward at blinding speeds, tearing through the battlefield like a ghost, dropping every enemy with perfectly calculated, lethal strikes. Watching this unfold, Akin was left completely stunned. He'd always prided himself on being a top-tier S-rank hunter. But these people, they were in a different league. He couldn't wrap his head around who they were or where they came from. Then the woman turned to Akin. Without a hint of hesitation, she ordered him to retreat. In their eyes, a powerful hunter like him was nothing more than a civilian. Akin's gaze fell to her hand. He spotted a mysterious emblem marked on her skin. It clicked. They weren't just random heroes. These people were high-level government operatives. Before he could even process the shock, a titanic hand reached out from the crack, shredding the fabric of reality even further. As the rift exploded, a massive, towering beast emerged. Meet Julia Ulner, a being far beyond S-rank, looking down on them all. Its twisted form radiated pure, suffocating dread. Without blinking, the woman charged forward, preparing her next lethal strike. Akin screams a warning against her recklessness, but the girl ignores it completely. Together, they charge in, totally unfazed by the massive threat looming right before us. Hanada unleashes a flurry of kicks on the beast man, only to realize his attacks aren't doing anything. The monster's anti-physical armor makes every single one of his strikes completely useless. He is forced to retreat just as the beast lunges toward the woman. Without a second's delay, she begins gathering massive energy, preparing a desperate counterattack of her own. Suddenly, before she can even move, Kannagi teleports right between the two. He catches the beast man's lethal strike with just his bare hand. The impact triggers a massive energy explosion, leaving everyone on the scene stunned. As the dust clears, Hanada recognizes the technique. It was a penetration shock. But what really blows his mind is seeing Kannagi absolutely demolish an S+ rank monster with a single hit. It is clear his power has skyrocketed since yesterday. The woman shouts that such overkill wasn't necessary for the situation. But he knows the deal when armor is this thick. Striking from the inside is the only effective way to win. He learned this from the Fist Saint Lantak, who taught him penetration basics just last night. In the aftermath, Kannagi turns to the girl and asks for her name. He did just save her life, after all. Excitedly, she introduces herself as the one and only Shinomiya Akin. But there is no time for chit-chat. Hanada pivots back to the fray, charging up to face the monsters pouring from the rift. The woman doesn't blink. She coats her enemies in liquid mercury, then detonates it all using her deadly Mercurius reject skill. They push forward together, seeing exactly why Kannaga's advice was so spot on. Attacking from the inside is proving to be a total game changer. Determined to end this, she signals Hanada to move out. They both dive headfirst into the dimensional crack without hesitation. Akin can only watch from behind, paralyzed in pure disbelief. He knows the world beyond, that rift is a hellscape of unimaginable danger. Entering is pure madness, yet before he can even blink, they have already leaped through the portal. Akin is left all alone, standing among the corpses of several rank monsters. Then it clicks, these two aren't just your average fighters. They must belong to that legendary secret organization everyone whispers about. The second they cross over, a massive swarm of beasts is already waiting. Akin quickly assesses the situation. Seeing the same monsters as before, she simply raises her hand. With deadly precision, she summons mercury spears that impale every single creature instantly. Kannagi watches her technique while running, impressed by her sheer destructive power. He finally sees why she's the top area of effect fighter in her unit. After the slaughter, Akin finds herself facing down a giant, hulking bear monster. But before she can strike, Hanada steals the spotlight and leaps in first. The bear swings its massive claws, but Hanada expertly vaults onto a nearby roof. All right, you and I are watching Hanada go wild with a flurry of kicks. Kannagi is stunned. Hanada moves effortlessly, even letting out a little giggle while fighting. But wait, Kannagi suddenly charges. To everyone's shock, he mimics Hanada perfectly, unloading his own flurry. He even asks Hanada if his technique looks like the real thing. Hanada is stunned, but a grin of amazement spreads across his face. Monster defeated. Now, the group continues their journey further into the dungeon. Akin notices something weird. The deeper they go, the quieter it gets. They finally stumble into a massive open area that looks like a gladiator arena. A heavy pressure fills the air. They all feel it, something big is coming. Suddenly, a massive, raging Minotaur warrior drops right in front of them with earth-shaking force. This isn't some normal mob. It's a triple S-rank boss. Hanada and Kannagi are frozen, staring at this mountain of muscle. Akin stays totally calm. She wonders if this is the real boss. Then, a flurry of spears erupts from the portal. Akin shouts for the guys to hit it with everything they've got. She will handle whatever comes next. Hanada starts charging up his energy, while Kannagi watches them both, feeling completely outclassed. Deep down, he knows their attacks won't be enough to put this beast down. Hanada is surprised. He can't believe Kannagi is already doubting their strongest moves. They rain down a barrage of magic, but the beast just shrugs it off and swings. The impact carves a crater into the ground, sending massive shock waves everywhere. Once the dust settles, they're stunned. The beast hasn't even been scratched. Despite the terror, they pull themselves together for round 2. Kannagi prepares himself. And here's where you and I hear a voice that changes everything. It's Killick, his founder's spirit. The alchemist is actually worried about the girl. With all her power and speed, she's still in danger. Killick fears she'll waste that talent by dying here so young. He admits she's trying her best, but this minotaur is on another level entirely. She completely underestimated its physical defense. It's sitting at a full 100%. Panicked, Kannagi asks what to do, but Killick just gives a cold laugh. Meanwhile, Hinata and Akin are getting pushed to their absolute limits. They realize they desperately need someone with high-level magic. Akin looks over at Kannagi. She freezes. A strange, overwhelming energy is pouring out of his body. Kannagi has let Killick take over. The spirit immediately casts Mercurius, targeting the beast's legs. The spell completely freezes its lower body, leaving Akin speechless. She's in total shock. It's not just the familiar skill, but the fact that he used it to completely immobilize the monster. Killick is still controlling Kanaga's body. He calls her a fool, scolding her for being way too rigid with her own expertise. She still has much to learn. To be a true alchemist, you must master substances in 3 different forms. While he's talking, Killick quietly fills the Minotaur's entire body with mercury. We're about to see how this deadly boiling point finally ends the fight. The mercury inside the beast flash heats instantly, boiling its core. And lethal fumes flood the arena, choking out anyone still caught in the crossfire. Akin watches in awe. Killick didn't use power, he used thermal physics to melt the monster. The Minotaur thrashes in agony, cooked alive by internal heat. Right mid-spell, Killick nonchalantly mentions wanting Akin as his next student to a confused Kannagi. Kannagi just laughs it off as a bad joke. Finally, the boiling metal wins, leaving the Minotaur a lifeless heap on the cold stone floor. Mission accomplished, the boss is down and the job is done. This level 3 prophecy threat, successfully neutralized by our main characters. Akin stands frozen, trying to process the absolute insanity she just witnessed. Kannagi used a skill that only an Awakener inside a crest should possess. Akin assumed he was the same tier as Hinata. But his alchemy skills were clearly on a master level. She demands answers. Who exactly is this Kannagi guy really? With a smirk, Kannagi offers a handshake and introduces himself properly. Akin is annoyed but curious, so she takes his hand. She won't forget him. Hinata is beaming, thrilled to see Kannagi finally getting the respect he deserves. Meanwhile, the rest of the squad is still waiting outside. Suddenly, the rift starts sealing shut right before their eyes. At the very last second, our trio leaps through the closing portal. Kannagi checks if the job is done and learns they just need to report back to headquarters. While they discuss their next move, Akin approaches, thanking them for the save. He promises not to dig into their secrets or what went down. Kannagi thanks him for his discretion, suggesting he mentions the emblem in the official report. That will explain everything to the authorities. As the group walks off, Akin offers a favor if they ever need help. But Kannagi looks back and says they will likely never meet again, just go live a normal life. Akin realizes that, despite their power, they just want to be civilians. They live in a world far beyond his reach or understanding. May 11th, a crimson streak blurs through the streets of the village. A guard catches a glimpse, but he is totally clueless what it is. Suddenly, an earth-shaking roar tears through the air. Meanwhile, at the anti-prophecy headquarters, our team hops out of their ride. And Akin mentions the report they owe. But then, Hinata gets an urgent text on his phone. They are being summoned to the lab. That is super weird, especially right after finishing a job. They head to the lab, finding 2 people already there waiting for their arrival. One guy is on stage, another in the stands. The seated man speaks up with total authority, claiming Akin took way too long to clear that a rank disaster. Kannagi knows that face instantly. It is that red-haired jerk. Akin is absolutely fuming at his arrogant tone. She hates him acting like the boss when he is not. Hinata jumps in to play peacemaker, asking what Director Kurihara wants with them. Turns out, the man standing center stage is the director himself. After the room settles, he plays a clip from the analysis team. It shows a glowing, red-hot hunk of charcoal, which the director reveals is actually a prophecy grimoire. Apparently, this ancient relic was recovered from a volcanic region, and they have been dissecting its secrets ever since. Kannagi doubts anyone can read something so damaged, but the director just adjusts his glasses, revealing they used AI and X-ray tech to pull data, though the full message remains a mystery. However, one decoded fragment stands out, and it specifically mentions the nation of Japan. A wave of shock hits everyone, especially Awaken. This is a brand new prophecy that no one has ever encountered before. The director notes that since anti-prophecy research is so advanced nowadays, tracking data from every corner of the globe, finding an undocumented prophecy like this is practically unheard of. This situation is different though. The red-haired man, Suo, connects the dots immediately. It is up to the four of them to investigate. The director praises his sharp wit. Normally, the veterans would handle this, but they are all unavailable. That explains everything. Kannagi finally realizes why Midori was missing when they returned to base. The director orders them to move out instantly, promising more intel via an encrypted email. Kannagi is reeling. Another life-or-death mission already? It is all happening so fast. Suo just gives him a look. He will get used to the pace eventually. Kannagi clenches his fists. A cold, heavy realization starts to settle deep in his gut. This time, the survival of the entire world might actually be at stake. Suddenly, Suo slams his hand onto the table and stands up tall. In his usual arrogant tone, he declares that he and his subordinates are taking the lead. Awaken is visibly irritated. There he goes again, acting like he owns the place. As they head out, the director offers one last warning. Stay sharp, the true danger level is unknown. Even if the prophecy begins to manifest right before their eyes, they must wait for the main force before making any reckless moves. On the road, Kannagi cannot shake the feeling of dread about what lies ahead. Up in the front seat, Suo suggests they all try to sleep. He knows Kannagi is exhausted from his first mission, but Awaken refuses to show any weakness. She snaps that he cannot boss her around, but to her utter surprise, both Hinata and Kannagi take the offer and pass out almost instantly. Awaken is determined to stay awake, desperately fighting her heavy eyelids. But as the night wears on, exhaustion wins. She eventually drifts off into silence. A while later, the car stops. Awaken blinks her eyes open, only to find the vehicle empty. Panic hits. She rushes out and finds the team on a cliff, staring at a light below. What she sees next leaves her completely speechless. An enormous magic circle spans the valley floor, way bigger than anything they ever imagined. Hinata realizes right then just how bad the situation really is. This is a nightmare. The prophecy is already reaching its final stage. Skeletal monsters are crawling from the earth, encased in massive, jagged crystals. Their ghostly radiance casts a terrifying glow across the entire landscape. Chills run down their spines. The terrifying truth hits home, they might already be too late. You and I are looking at the skeletons of the 23 villagers mentioned in the report. Siu suddenly recalls a similar horror from his own past. 30 years ago, Wakayama Mansion vanished, and a dimensional rift nearly tore the world apart. As he explains this, the massive central pillar within the magic circle began erupting with violent bursts of energy. Seeing the danger, Suo tells everyone to move now. Suo draws his blade while Hinata panics, asking for a plan. Suo knows they must stop it, but Awaken brings up the director's strict orders. They were told to sit tight and wait. Before they can argue, a crushing aura washes over them from behind. They turn to see Kannagi, overflowing with raw energy and ready for a bloodbath. Everyone can feel it. Kannagi is on a whole different level now. But Suo, he doesn't even blink. He lunges forward, shouting for the rest to follow his lead. They charge in, though Awaken screams at him for being so reckless. As they rush down toward the glowing magic circle, Hinoki and the mage suddenly catch a scent in the air. A foul, familiar stench they've come across many times. Suddenly, the ground shakes before a massive, monstrous hand bursts through the earth with a violent explosion. Hinoki's eyes widen. He knows that smell. He knows what's coming. It's the rot of a forbidden technique, the prophecy from the Book of Scorching Heat. Hinoki explains that back in the long-forgotten era of peace, a dark mage leader named Bandu Shijima rose to power. He committed genocide. The Onmyojis finally took him down, but an entire village was sacrificed along the way. Shijima used the blood of those villagers to draw a circle, ensuring he'd return 1,000 years later. His plan? To consume every living soul and rule the world as a demon king. Before dying, he left a forbidden ritual detailing exactly how lives would be sacrificed for his dark resurrection. Now, in the present, Shijima has been reborn as a boss with unmeasurable rank. His mission is set. He's here to fulfill the prophecy of Scorching Heat. He stares at his hands and scowls. He's returned with far less power than he'd originally planned. He wonders if the ritual lacked enough human sacrifices. Scanning the area, he laughs, seeing that even after a millennium, this place hasn't changed a bit. But then, a twisted grin spreads across his face as he sees the unit approaching. To him, they're just more fresh sacrifices to fuel his power. Using his dark arts, he triggers the plate of yin, blowing up the ground right beneath them. Kannagi panics as the blast hits, but Hanada and Akin emerge from the smoke, still standing. Then, Shijima's eyes turn cold as a dark magic circle forms under their feet. It's the Death Realm, forbidden magic. Hundreds of vengeful spirits swarm out of the circle. Ghostly hands grab Hanada and Akin. They struggle, realizing Shijima is way more dangerous than they ever imagined. As Shijima watches his dark spell unfold, suddenly he senses a presence. It is Kannagi, launching a desperate surprise attack from behind. Shijima dodges effortlessly, bending and sidestepping the blow with zero struggle. Smirking, he calls Kannagi a total amateur, before casting Plate of Yin right under him. The blast goes off, but surprisingly, Kannagi walks out without a single scratch. Kannagi strikes back with Thunderbolt Haded, but Shijima counters by weaving his own dark magic. Even after stopping the blow, Shijima's impressed by the boy's strategy. Suddenly, Suo emerges from the smoke behind Shijima, unleashing a chrysanthemum spell that sends razor-sharp knives flying everywhere. Shijima is caught off guard but leaps high to dodge, while he's midair. Suo fires another spell, proving he knew a simple attack wouldn't take him down. Slamming his weapon down, Suo triggers the Autumn Thistle, making knives rain from the heavens. Shijima just smiles, calling the whole thing a pathetic rain of lights. He morphs his hand into a lethal spear, but Suo blocks it with heavy recoil. Following that block, Shijima realizes that Suo is likely the strongest fighter here. Watching from the sidelines, Kannagi realizes Shijima's power is bottomless. He's totally unlike any enemy they have faced before. Shijima himself feels even more powerful than the founders. While Kannagi processes this, he hears his friends shouting from behind him. He turns and is horrified to see Akin and Hanada caught in black arts. They barely escape and charge toward Shijima, who's still locked in combat with Suo. While fighting them off, Shijima summons 3 skeleton demons to handle Akin and Hanada as they rush in. Hanada spots a demon right in front and delivers a kick. But it does nothing. These monsters have bodies as tough as the minotaurs they fought earlier. While Shijima and Suo kept trading blow after blow, one skeleton demon stands directly before Kannagi. Blocking his path, Shijima even mocks Suo, claiming his friends are too busy to help. But right after that taunt, Suo slashes Shijima's shoulder and proudly declares that he does not need any help. Pointing at Shijima, he warns him to stay back because he relies on himself. Shijima just wipes blood from his face and starts laughing like a complete madman. He screams that he is alone too and will devour everyone. With that, he lunges at Suo, who barely blocks the strike inches from impact. As Suo struggles against the relentless assault, he hears his name called from behind. It was Kannagi, charging straight for the villain. Shijima is stunned to see Kannagi, since he'd sent a demon to stop him. He looks back and sees the others still occupied with their demons. But the one sent for Kannagi was sliced clean in half. While Shijima tries to process the shock, Kannagi lands a massive punch to his jaw, sending him skidding across the dirt. Even Suo is impressed. Kannagi then suggests they team up to finish Shijima. Suo is momentarily stunned. The others had not even finished their own battles, yet Kannagi was already offering backup. But Suo's pride gets the best of him. He rejects the offer, declaring that he doesn't need help and is enough to win alone. Kannagi stood there, completely stunned. Before another word was exchanged, Shijima closed the gap instantly. He unleashed his Maigatsu breath technique, a massive beam tearing toward them. Suo barely held, but Kannagi was launched backward, the brutal impact nearly breaking him. Slamming hard against a tree, his vision blurred as the world faded to black. As he slipped into the void, he found Hinoki and the mage's souls standing right there before him. Hinoki explained he'd passed out, so they pulled him into his own mindscape. Though his body was broken and screaming in absolute agony right now, Kannagi fought to stand, begging them to send him back to reality. He had to fight. Suddenly, a deep, powerful voice boomed across the entire space, commanding him to stay out of the battle. Back outside, Suo was struggling to survive against Shijima's endless, brutal assault. Shijima smirked, actually complimenting Suo for being a lone wolf who doesn't need anyone's help. With a twisted grin and a hunger to consume everything, Shijima poured his power into his sword. He swung with such violence that Suo's sword literally shattered into pieces. Despite the shock, Suo summoned a new blade and lashed out at Shijima. Shijima simply dodged it effortlessly, contorting his body with unnatural, creepy flexibility. Shijima was clearly having the time of his life watching Suo struggle. Back inside the spirit realm, Kannagi watched the battle from within. He knew Shijima's strength was on another level. Hinoki warned this was far beyond what he could handle. The mage added that Shijima's precision was nightmare tier. If more people lived here, Shijima would have already evolved into a full demon king. She warned Kannagi that if Shijima took his life too, he would grow stronger and tear the human world apart. She even claimed finding the grimoire was nothing more than pure luck. Then Hinoki stepped forward, asking Kannagi to hand over his body to finish this. To their shock, Kannagi flatly refused. He apologized but stood firm. This wasn't some drill, it was the real deal. He insisted on overcoming this wall with his own strength. Just as he must in the future, with total confidence, he asked if they agreed. The mage tried arguing, but Hinoki laughed him off, telling Kannagi he'd already proven himself by defeating them. Resting a hand on Kannagi's shoulder, he recalled his vow to surpass the founders. He urged him to use every lesson and fight exactly his own way. Kannagi's resolve hardened, with a look of absolute determination. He faced the battle, asking the founders to watch his back. Without a single hesitation, he charged back toward the field where Suo and Shijima were clashing hard. Suo was completely wrecked. Just as his eyes opened, Shijima struck, launching him through the air. While Suo was flying, Shijima prepared his final, lethal blow, but just as Suo braced for death, someone caught him midair. Kannagi lunges, grabbing both Suo and his blade. Still midair, he flings Suo toward the ground with a massive heave, barely getting him clear of Shijima's deadly magic beam. Suo hits the dirt hard. Look at Shijima, he shifts his focus instantly to Kannagi. Another Maigatsu breath fires, but Shijima freezes. Kannagi is casually using Hinoki's signature one-handed sword style. With razor-sharp focus, Kannagi slices straight through the breath attack, splitting it clean in two. With perfect precision, his blade follows through, severing Shijima's arm completely. Shijima is stunned, pure horror. He can't even process what happened. Trembling with rage, he screams about his status, but Kannagi looks dead serious. He coldly declares that he's the one who will surpass the founders. The mage nearby asks Hinoki if Kannagi can actually defeat the Dark Megas. Hinoki isn't sure yet, but he's certain Kannagi isn't a fool. He suspects Kannagi picked up a new trick while napping on the ride over. A massive grin spreads across Hinoki's face. Could this be something even he doesn't fully understand? Suo is paralyzed with shock watching Kannagi move with such fluid grace. Just minutes ago, he'd flat out refused Kanaga's help. Now, that very help is the only thing keeping him alive. Meanwhile, Kanaga's relentless strikes force Shijima to start teleporting backward. Shijima counters with Pomegranate, his dark art, raining energy blasts down on Kannagi. Kannagi tries to evade. But wait, they're tracking him. No matter how much he jumps around, the blasts just keep chasing him. Suddenly, he recalls a founder's skill, Aftershock. He slams his foot down. A massive stone wall erupts, shielding him from the incoming barrage. Shijima is shocked by the tactic, but immediately fires off even more blasts. Kannagi uses the broken stone shards to create a second makeshift shield. Spotting an opening now, Kannagi combos 2 skills to teleport behind Shijima, but the villain barely dodges. He counters instantly, unleashing a plate of yin blast that slams into Kannagi. Kannagi takes the hit directly, but manages to absorb the brunt of it. Springboarding off a floating rock, he lunges forward, channeling the founder's ancient lessons. Shijima evades, but the sheer variety of Kannaga's techniques has him reeling. Even the founders watching from afar are completely stunned by Kannaga's rapid growth and non-stop pressure. But Shijima isn't finished yet. With a sinister glare, he activates his ultimate forbidden art. He fuses skeletons together, summoning a towering, monstrous skeletal giant. This beast looms over them all, radiating pure malice. Shijima just smirks. "This is the end," he declares. The giant swings a massive hand at Kannagi. The founders scream for him to run. But Kannagi stands perfectly still, staring down the massive incoming attack. He's thinking fast, realizing he still lacks the power to end this. Stick with me, because Kannagi knows he's missing one final piece. He's pushing past his limits. Channeling the mage's lessons and Hinoki's training, Kannagi masters the shining flame alongside a deadly one-handed sword style. He remembers everything, the wave blade attack and every single strike Hinoki taught him. Merging both worlds, Kannagi flows shining flame into his hand, while imbuing his blade with Hinoki's legendary skill, transforming his weapon into a blazing blade. The mage and Hinoki can't believe it. Our boy just pulled off the impossible. Gripping his newly empowered weapon, Kannagi stands ready for blood. This is it, the blazing fire-cutting blade, without a second of hesitation. He charges the skeletal beast, swinging that fiery sword while Shijima watches in absolute shock. But Kannagi isn't satisfied with just swordplay and magic. He's hungry for something even greater. With total focus, he unleashes the blazing fire-cutting blade, completely engulfing his steel in roaring flames. With one swift swing, he tears through the skeleton, splitting it in half and carving Shijima right down the middle. No one can believe their eyes. Combining 2 top-tier magic skills like that is unheard of. Even the alchemist founder is stunned, calling Kannagi a total irregular for how easily he swaps and blends all these different skills. He never thought merging techniques could look this easy. Clearly, Kannagi is hiding even more insane potential. Suddenly, the alchemist vanishes, leaving Hinoki completely baffled. The mage agrees. It's becoming clear that they've all been sleeping on Kannaga's true power. Now she's actually worried. Is it really safe to train someone with this much raw talent? Hinoki, though, is loving it. He can't wait to see just how far our protagonist can climb. Kannagi hits the ground, completely drained from the fight. But he's in for a shock. Shijima, despite being sliced in 2, is actually regenerating from his own blood. Shijima is livid, snarling that if that strike had hit his head, he'd be dead for sure. Gathering a surge of darkness, he builds a massive death ball, ready to end it. But out of nowhere, Suo appears and slashes his throat from behind. Shijima's head flies, caught completely off guard. As the body drops, Suo catches Kannagi, who's now totally passed out. Looking at Suo, Shijima's life flashes back to a distant, painful memory. He once carried his own little brother just like that. A freezing night under a bridge, snow everywhere. He had promised the kid a meal in the morning. While they tried to sleep, the sounds of a fancy parade echoed from above the bridge. The world was celebrating, while they shivered in the cold with empty stomachs. This is exactly why Shijima chose to be alone. He tried to manipulate our main character by preying on his deepest fears. Loneliness, but staring at Kanagi now, he realizes the truth. He's not actually alone, and even if he was, he's strong enough to endure. While he thinks, the barrier surrounding them finally starts to crack and shatter. Akin and Hinata charge in, panicking when they see Kanagi out cold on the ground. He's just unconscious, but Hinata realizes the barrier is actually collapsing from the inside out. She screams that they need to move, and fast. What happens if all that pent-up energy inside the barrier just explodes? Suo grips his sword, admitting that if it blows, they're all going to be crushed to death. Their only move is to counter with their strongest strike and hope for a deflection. Suo sounds confident, but deep down, he is definitely feeling the pressure. He has no idea if they can pull it off, but they have no other choice. As they brace for impact, an unconscious Kanagi suddenly lifts his sword, channeling massive energy into the blade. Suo is in total shock. Inside Kanagi's mind, Hinoki has taken control of his body. As the barrier shatters, everyone unleashes their full power, while Hinoki executes his one-handed cloud-splitting strike. Outside the zone, a red-haired man and two others are rushing toward the scene. His men warn him that the barrier is about to collapse. Suddenly, it bursts open. The men fear they are too late, but then, a brilliant beam of blue light shoots straight into the sky from Kanagi's blade. The red-haired man watches in awe, recognizing a flawless sword technique without a hint of hesitation. His name is Suo Makoto, captain of the anti-prophecy unit. Taking in the sight, he wonders who could be behind this. Later, on a plane flying over Peru, Midori is on a call with Makoto, amazed the rookie just stopped an unknown prophecy. Meanwhile in Japan, Makoto is still on the line, facing a rank 1 prophecy that is on a much higher level than before. Instead of sitting inside the plane, Midori is actually chilling on top of it. He is smiling, reflecting on how much the anti-prophecy unit has grown, even if he is not there to see it himself. But the fun stops when Makoto reveals that the core member who saved them was Kanagi. The same Kanagi who literally only joined the team 2 days ago. Shocked, Makoto desperately needs to know who this guy really is. Midori just laughs, declaring that Kanagi is the one who will end all prophecies. They have been anticipating his arrival for a long time. There was always this feeling that he was the savior they had been waiting for. Makoto, skeptical of the hype, questions if their faith in him is truly justified. Instead of arguing, Midori tells him to just see for himself. Changing the subject, Makoto urges Midori to return. His presence is needed, as facing an equal opponent without him is proving to be a nightmare. Midori chuckles, offering a brief apology before shifting his focus. Meanwhile, Rin reaches out with urgency, speaking of a grand prophecy unfolding before their eyes. It is a massive enemy. A super-rank prophecy. The boss of suicidal infection, Ishtem, is charging straight toward him right now. Midori tells Makoto to hang on, promising to finish things up soon. Without hesitation, he extends his hand and unleashes divine wind turbulence. At that exact moment, in a hospital ward, Kanagi's eyes snap open. A startled cry escapes him as he suddenly sits up. A nurse sees his movement and leans over to reassure him. She tells him that he has finally regained consciousness. He is in the unit infirmary, having been asleep since the mission ended. Hearing this, Kanagi wonders if he had simply lost consciousness for a moment. He was out so cold, he did not even visit the soul space to train with founders. The nurse promises him that everything is fine, opening the curtain while telling him to call if he feels any pain. As the light hits, Kanagi sees Suo sitting there, arms crossed, watching him in silence. Seeing that face, Kanagi wonders if he stayed there the entire time he was out. Looking around the room, he notices that Hinata and Akin are gone. When he asks where they are, Suo says they are busy training. Feeling totally useless after that brutal last fight. In a rare moment, Suo admits that Kanaga's power was just overwhelming. A compliment from a guy like Suo, that completely shocks our hero. But before he can even process that, Suo stands up and aggressively demands to know his real identity, in less than 2 days since arrival. Kanagi has already wiped out a rank 3 and a possible rank 1 boss using fusion spells that Suo has never even seen before. He asks again harder. Suo wants to know who he really is and how he became so strong. As the tension rises, Makoto suddenly walks through the door, asking if this is the guy. Kanagi confirms, but Suo is stunned by his big brother's sudden entrance. Makoto walks right past, barely looking at Suo, while Kanagi asks if he is really the older brother. The second those words leave his mouth, Makoto draws his blade and swings it inches from their faces. Both Suo and Kanagi are caught totally off guard. Dodging the steel, Kanagi wonders if this is some test. Meanwhile, Makoto is actually impressed that a simple trainee could dodge his lethal strike. Makoto admits it was a test, and Kanagi just passed with flying colors. He introduces himself as Suo Makoto, the captain of his brother's squad. It clicks for Kanagi. This really is Suo's elite big brother. After a quick pause, Makoto says that since Kanagi handled that rank 1 disaster, he is joining the squad for a while. This news stuns Kanagi, but Suo is even more floored. A wave of jealousy hits him hard. Even as the younger brother, he was never allowed on that elite squad. Moving fast, Makoto orders Kanagi to follow him for a quick briefing. While in the background, Suo clenches his fists so hard, in pure frustration, that his knuckles actually start bleeding. Meanwhile, at the training grounds, the anti-prophecy duo is working hard. Akin attacks with multiple weapons while Hinata tries to block. However, no matter how much they push themselves, they know reaching Kanaga's level is practically impossible. As they keep on practicing, Midori walks in, announcing he is back with chocolates from Peru. To his surprise, they ignore the candy and charge at him, asking how long he is staying in Japan. When Midori reveals that he is staying for a week, the duo immediately insists on training under him the entire time. They refuse to let Kanagi leave them in the dust. Surprised, Midori did not realize they were this hungry for power. He finally agrees to train them, but then shifts focus to Suo, asking if he is in. Right on cue, Suo makes his grand entrance, eyes burning with sheer determination as he confirms he is joining too. In the hall, Kanagi hurries to keep pace with Makoto's long strides. Back at training, the squad is shocked by Suo's intense new resolve. Suo drops the bombshell that Kanagi was actually scouted by his own big brother for a temporary spot. This news floors the duo, showing them just how far Kanaga's come. Getting handpicked by Makoto himself is an incredible achievement. Suo, however, sees this as a clear sign of his own failures and vows to improve. Meanwhile, back in the hallway, curious, Kanagi asks Makoto what the meeting is actually about. Makoto explains it is for their next mission, starting first thing tomorrow. Mid-walk, Makoto stops and asks if Kanagi is close with his little brother, thinking back to when Suo handed him that sword in battle. Kanagi happily confirms they are indeed close. Makoto acts stone cold, but he is secretly worried sick about his brother. This cold act makes Suo believe his brother hates him and doesn't care. In reality, when Makoto visited before, he wasn't actually ignoring Suo. He just could not stand to see his brother's wounds, but Suo took it as total disrespect, powering his drive to risk his very life to get stronger, all just to be noticed by Makoto. The twist, Makoto does not actually want Suo getting any stronger. All he wants is for him to stay safe. This painful misunderstanding drives Suo to surpass Kanagi, hoping his brother will finally notice him. He even plans to defeat Makoto one day. Still, Kanagi keeps pressing for answers. And Makoto finally confesses that he really does care for his little brother. Kanagi finds the whole thing heartwarming. Back at training, Suo lays the whole situation out for the group. Akin is confused, even though Suo says he wants to beat his brother. He clearly still holds him in high regard. Training with Hinata, Akin realizes that when it's all said and done, Suo just wants his brother's love. Hanada is touched, but Suo hears her and gets totally enraged. Meanwhile, during the meeting, Kanagi hears the squad's 3 main rules. Number 1, be fast. Second, never stop attacking. Third, overcome every single weakness. Across the entire Counterforce division, Makoto's team is known as the absolute strongest when it comes to fighting. They run with a 7-man minimum, built to be a small, elite strike force. They hunt rank 1 threats and above. Now, the squad is on a chopper heading to the mission. A guy named Kuriyama Jakaru casually claims 90% of the team's power is just their captain, while everyone else is just an extra. Since Kanagi is just a temp, nobody expects him to do much of anything. But while Jakaru is busy explaining all this, Kanagi is glued to his phone. Jakaru calls him out, so he apologizes, saying he has to text his crew. Jakaru looks lost. He has no clue what contacting even means. Kanagi is trying to reach the anti-prophecy group because the founders have been breathing down his neck. Back at the training grounds, the message hits their phones. One look is all it takes to stun everyone. Suo is fuming. He is wondering what the heck Kanagi was thinking when he sent this out. They waste no time showing the text to Midori. Midori realizes the message is actually custom advice for 3 people, each tailored to their specific needs. Even Midori is blown away by how deep these training tips go. With a grin, he asks if they will take the advice or toss it. They see it as a challenge and accept. Suo is especially heated. To him, Kanagi is just rubbing salt in the wound. Meanwhile on the plane, Jakaru lets Kanagi know they have finally reached the drop zone. Wiping the glass, Kanagi gasps at the view. A massive frozen mountain wasteland with giant crystal spikes tearing through the earth. Their target, a rank 1 prophecy known as Frozen Earth. This is no small chill. It is a disaster that could freeze the entire world. The affected frost zones are expanding at a terrifying, unstoppable speed. If they do not stop this now, humanity is history, just one big block of ice. This ice is popping up in 17 different spots across the entire globe. Most are in major cities, which is making this crisis even deadlier. Vice Captain Kashi lays out the grim reality for the squad. Every second counts. They do not have a single moment to waste. Reports say the freezing effect is moving way faster than they expected. Makoto takes the lead, ordering everyone to jump since the chopper cannot fly safely into the heart of the storm. Right before they dive, he gives one final order: do not harm a single human life. To get their blood pumping, he has them shout the squad rules. They scream them in perfect unison. Standing at the back, Kanagi mind drifts to his last battle. He is tired of leaning on Hinoki. He is determined to use this temporary mission to finally find his own strength. He sees this as a golden chance to learn from the absolute best. As they leap into the void, Kanagi resolves to handle this one on his own. This is it, his first rank 1 prophecy. 10:17 a.m. The entire squad sticks the landing on the frozen ground. The air is biting, even for a high-level Awakener. Jakaru starts shivering. He is stunned that the cold is actually getting to him. Kashi notes that the temperature is far more extreme than any of their intel suggested. It is a massive area, so he suggests setting up a camp halfway through. Makoto looks like he is considering something, but he stays silent for now. Kanagi asks Jakaru if this frozen earth disaster was ever written in the prophecy books. Not a chance. The unit used their own specialized skills to predict this nightmare. There are plenty of prophecies, but this is the first rank 1 they have ever identified. That is exactly why Makoto's elite squad was handpicked for a mission this severe. Kanagi finally has his answer. But Kashi can see the kid is looking a little rattled. Kashi tells him nerves are good to stay sharp, just don't let the pressure crush you. Jakaru rests a hand on Kanagi's shoulder, echoing Kashi and reminding him he's rolling with the elite anti-prophecy squad, the best in the business. Kashi snaps at Jakaru for being too chill, making him apologize instantly. Suddenly, Jakaru's hand shoots up, reporting his radars detected enemies at 2 o'clock, roughly 200 meters out. Kashi nods, vanishing instantly and reappearing before the team can even blink twice. Scouting's done. 30 monsters ahead looks like rank S triple plus tier threats. Those are ice gargoyles from the legendary Tai tribe. Hearing that, Makoto gives the signal, total annihilation, right now. The squad moves as one, charging the monsters with perfect precision. Kanagi watches, completely blown away by their flawless teamwork. These guys operate on a level trainees can't even imagine. Proving they aren't just regular soldiers, they are the true elite vanguard. Itching for action, Kanagi asks if he can jump in. Which Makoto grants, S triple plus rank, to him they're basically nothing. Permission finally secured. Kanagi lunges, landing a brutal kick. But wait, the monster literally explodes into a shower of shards. Kashi skillfully dances through the chaos, dodging attacks. Heads up, she warns everyone that some extremely high-tier heavy hitters are mixed in. Meanwhile, Kanagi ignites his fire-cutting blade, unleashing a flame strike that totally vaporizes his target on impact. Jakaru is floored. Did a rookie like Kanagi really just pull off a Fury sword skill? Kashi's impressed, but watch the captain. With effortless swings, Makoto carves through the remaining monsters like a hot knife. He clocks Kanaga's blade, realizing that mysterious blue beam earlier must have been from this kid's fire. Threat over. Monsters defeated, the squad camps in the mountains to grab some food. Over dinner, Kashi asks Jakaru if the radar picked up anything. Jakaru reports that there are no boss-level threats within 10 kilometers of camp. Kashi breathes a sigh of relief. Looks like they can spend the night there. Wait, where are Kanagi and the captain? On the other side of camp. Kanagi is by his own fire, trying to fuse his spells together just like before. But as he focuses in, the captain creeps up from behind, teasing him about being such a hardcore training fanatic. Pure jump scare. Kanagi nearly leaps out of his skin because Makoto approached with zero sound, totally stealthy. Makoto calms him down and sits by the fire, asking if it's his. First time camping, and if the terrain is tough. Kanagi acts all tough and says he's fine, but suddenly, Makoto casually mentions he just wants to go home and smoke. Kanagi is baffled. He never expected the captain to be the type to talk about smoking. But then the shocker, Makoto, says he's desperate to go home and smoke his cat. Alarmed and totally confused, Kanagi completely misinterprets what he hears. Thinking he's talking about drugs, he immediately starts questioning him about this cat. Makoto leans in way too close for comfort here. He pulls out his phone to show off a photo of his cat named Orb. Kanagi looks at the picture and notices the cat has an absolutely terrifying gaze. He just asks if Makoto actually misses the little guy. Surprisingly, Makoto says no. Apparently, Orb is a total nightmare. He scratches everything, barfs everywhere, and is basically a tiny four-legged demon. But despite all that, Makoto still thinks he is adorable. Just like his brother Suo, Kanagi thinks this comparison is pretty weird. Still, he listens as the captain starts sounding hopeful. He admits he wishes he could talk to Suo the same way they're talking now. Kanagi is an only child, so he cannot relate, but offers some advice. Maybe Makoto should just treat Suo exactly like his cat. Makoto beams at this and totally agrees. He then shows Kanagi some videos. The captain is literally babying his cat like a toddler. Makoto actually wonders if behaving like that is really okay. With a gentle look, he turns to Kanagi and asks if they can actually practice together. In his head, Kanagi is screaming no. But before he can say anything, Kashi shows up looking for them. She tells them to head back since they are moving out early tomorrow morning. Makoto agrees immediately. That night, a mysterious stranger enters the frozen lands while the crew is totally unaware. This guy is casually dressed for the beach while walking deep into the frozen terrain. When stopped, he says he is here to fulfill the local prophecy. He clutches a small book, claiming his mission is vital. He is a solo Awakener, heading for the exact same mountain as our squad. Back at camp, Kanagi drifts off to sleep. He is back training with the founders. Today, it is all about archery. He struggles with a heavy bow under Margit's watchful eye. Kanagi is dripping sweat, so Margit asks if the focus is too much. The training continues. Hinoki starts yelling about why they are not using swords instead. The mage shuts him up, reminding him that he had his turn yesterday. Margit is impressed. Even with the noise, Kanagi stays focused. His concentration has improved significantly since the very first time they trained together. Kanagi says his amazing team motivates him to do his absolute best. He locks onto the target. The arrow flies, hitting the bullseye with perfect precision. Margit is stunned by the precision, while Kanagi just collapses to the ground in relief. Margit tells him to remember that feeling. That is it for today. Hearing that, Hinoki gets all fired up. He draws his sword and tells Kanagi to get ready for round 2. But right then, the crew wakes Kanagi up in the real world. It is time to hit the road again. Makoto gives the brief. Today, they kill the boss from the prophecy. As they move out, they run into a flock of bluebirds. As the squad charges straight into battle, Kanaga's founders boast about how easy this mission is, given the team's massive strength. But the mage feels a chill. One elder founder is visibly shaken, sensing something is wrong. The battle begins, and the crew wipes the floor with the monsters, clearing the path ahead. Makoto sends Jakaru ahead to scout. He reports back that 2,000 meters away, a massive boss monster awaits, and it is heading straight for them. Then comes the terrifying part. The monster will reach them in just 10 seconds. Suddenly, a towering figure, the unknown god Kamitas, lunges at them with a maniacal, terrifying grin. Her pressure is on another level, unlike any monster they have faced before. Makoto shouts the order, and his team moves like a single unit, flashing toward the boss in perfect unison. Jakaru launches his shackles to trap it, while Kashi slashes from every possible angle. But shock hits the group. Their attacks leave no damage. The boss is completely unharmed, even after that high-level combo attack. As the creature prepares to strike back, it senses a sudden threat from the sky. It is Kanagi, diving down with a massive sword strike. Remembering exactly what his masters taught him about the perfect vertical slash, he pours every ounce of power into his strongest opening move, gathering his energy. Kanagi strikes with his blazing fire-cutting blade, launching a massive beam of flame. But it does nothing, 0 damage. The boss instantly counters the boy, swinging her own blade and slamming Kanagi deep into the dirt. Hearing that bone-crushing impact, Jakaru's heart sinks, thinking Kanagi is finished. But he survives, thanks to an ice crystal that saved him by softening the fall. Kashi keeps fighting, finally understanding why this boss is ranked number 1. She looks to Makoto. He is their only hope of surviving this nightmare. Makoto draws his steel. Seeing this, Jakaru immediately shackles Kanagi and pulls him out of the fight, warning that getting in their captain's way is a death sentence. As they back off, the boss swings at Makoto with world-ending force. The shockwave nearly tears the ground apart, leaving Kanagi terrified for his leader's life. But then, absolute, total astonishment. Makoto stops the blade inches from his face. The boss swings again, but he blocks it like nothing. Then he moves. He counters with a lethal slash, clean across, taking the boss's arm off. Hinoki is absolutely hyped by the display, shouting that he needs to try that. But Kanagi isn't having it, refusing to let Hinoki take control of his body. Standing over the now wounded boss, Makoto calmly admits he wanted his crew to gain some real experience here, but now, he is ending it himself. Hearing that tone, the crew instantly drops a barrier to shield themselves. Once the protective shield is set, Makoto flows his red dragon skill into the blade, igniting the entire area in fire. He mixes it with crimson light, letting loose a massive inferno that vaporizes half of the boss's body instantly. Watching all this unfold, Kanagi is completely stunned. Makoto unleashed a fire blade technique just like his, but with terrifying power. If not for that shield, everyone there would have been incinerated instantly. Kanagi whispers an apology to the boss about his duty to the world. Then, suddenly, he lets out a cat meow, making everyone present cringe in pure embarrassment. Analyzing the intense fight, Kanagi notices Makoto's style is nothing like what Hinoki usually uses. He is truly in a league of his own. Now, Kanagi is desperate to learn. Suddenly, Makoto swings one last time, slicing the boss clean down the middle. But in a heartbeat, a blinding beam of light rips across the area. Makoto's arm is torn right off. Stunned, he looks back and sees a massive hole through Jakaru's body. Kanagi scans the field in pure terror as he realizes the scale of the carnage. One after another, his friends are being shredded into pieces. Blood sprays everywhere as they all fall lifeless right in front of him. Kanagi sprints to catch the falling Jakaru, but his friend uses his last breath to shove him. Reeling back, Kanagi can only watch as the allies he just fought with are slaughtered like flies. Even while dying, Jakaru is haunted by a single, crushing sense of failure. His sensing ability missed the strike, and now his whole team is paying for it. As he collapses, he whispers a final apology to his captain before hitting the dirt, praying his team saw the source. Kashi narrowly survives, but the others are caught in that same deadly flash. It blows right through them. Gripping his bloody stump, Makoto screams for everyone to hide, warning of a sniper skill attack. Instantly, the survivors scatter and run for their lives. While retreating, Kashi shouts for a downed friend to get up and move. But he freezes, unable to leave their mangled captain behind in this mess. The strike that took Makoto's arm ignores all defenses, even the strongest shields. This thing is designed to erase anything it comes into contact with. Another beam shoots toward Makoto, but he barely jumps clear just in time. Kashi watches in horror as the boss unleashes attacks while healing its wounds instantly. She realizes their only hope is to destroy the boss in one go. She looks over at Kanagi, but he is just kneeling there, totally paralyzed. Kanagi stares blankly at what is left of his dead friends. He can barely speak as he starts to beg the founder, Valentine, to use her power and bring them back. Looking pained, Valentine has to apologize. She has no power over death itself. Kanagi goes quiet for a second, then lets out a long breath. He summons all the founders, admitting he failed at trying to do this alone. He finally accepts that he needs their strength one more time. Hinoki wastes no time, stepping in to take full control of his body. Meanwhile, Makoto figures out that the attack went right under Jakaru's radar. Since that radar only covers 3 kilometers, this killer strike must have come from even further away. That one shot didn't just end Jakaru. Worse, it severed Makoto's arm. It is proof this enemy is at least as strong as he is. Makoto won't let his friends' deaths be in vain, pushing his body past every limit. Channeling power far beyond his normal capacity, he focuses every ounce of his energy. Using his sharpened senses, he locks onto a target over 3 kilometers away. Despite all the obstacles in his way, he clenches his sword tightly. He remembers his fallen comrades. Their deaths fuel his fire. Now, his resolve is absolute. Makoto coats his blade in crimson light, unleashing a massive, devastating blaze of fire. The fire rips through the earth, obliterating everything in its wake. Finally, the smoke clears, revealing the enemy who cast that deadly spell. It is that same kid who showed up alone, looking totally casual. He is genuinely impressed Makoto tracked him down. I guess that is expected from the strongest squad captain. But Makoto is shaken. His massive attack, this guy just swallowed it whole. The boy admits that if Makoto still had both arms, that hit would have actually killed him. He uses a spell called Darkness, summoning ominous black orbs all around him. Walking forward, he fires an orb at Makoto with pure, cold-blooded intent to kill. Makoto reacts fast, conjuring a thick ice barrier to block the blast. He counters instantly, vanishing and then reappearing right behind the kid for a next strike. But before Makoto can even blink, everything goes wrong. That devastating beam fires again, literally tearing a chunk right out of his torso. The boy is untouched, calmly saying he saw that attack coming a mile away. Then he adds the cold truth: Makoto is the one knocking on death's door. That comment sets Makoto off. Using the last of his strength, he lunges forward for one final swing. But the kid sidesteps effortlessly and counters with a brutal, high-impact kick. He lands a direct hit on the open wound, but Makoto planned for this. Seizing the opening, he slams the back of his blade into the boy, grounding him hard. Makoto watches him, starting to wonder. Why did he stop using those beam attacks after only firing a few times? It is overwhelming power, but he clearly cannot keep it up forever. Then it hits him, the boy cannot use that spell continuously. In terms of endurance, they are actually neck and neck. The boy lands on his feet after the crash, confirming exactly what Makoto suspected. But he points out their conditions are different. Makoto is at a massive disadvantage. One arm gone and half his body torn apart. But Makoto, he doesn't even know the meaning of the word disadvantage. He thinks back to the 3 rules of the Makoto squad, finding his second wind. Determination floods his system. He is ready to fight until his absolute last breath. With absolute resolve, he channels a surge of electric, fiery energy. He burns his own wounds shut to stop the bleeding. Absolutely hardcore. He roars the squad's 3rd rule across the battlefield: overcome your weakness. With those words, he unleashes Scarlet Blaze. The kid's eyes narrow instantly. He realizes Makoto is burning his own life force just to boost his power. So he does the same, fueling his darkness spell with his very essence. Makoto summons the spirits of his fallen brothers, glaring daggers at his foe. His voice thunders over the chaos, warning the enemy never to underestimate his squad. Meanwhile, in the rear, Kanagi reaches out to his mysterious funders for backup. His hair bleaches white as Hinoki seizes control. Nearby, the rest of the squad remains on the run. Suddenly, the boss cuts them off, standing strong while her severed arms completely regenerate. Watching this horror, Kashi grows deeply concerned. She knows she cannot win this alone. She screams for Kanagi, who is still kneeling in the dirt. To her, it looks like his fighting spirit shattered after seeing his friends die. It is only natural. He was just a normal guy who had only recently joined their ranks. But then, to her absolute shock, Kanagi slowly stands up. In a flash, he blurs forward, landing a brutal kick that sends the boss flying. Elsewhere, Makoto and his rival are locked in a high-stakes, deadly exchange. They trade blow for blow. Using only his broken blade, Makoto unleashes a wave of scarlet light. The enemy barely avoids it by leaning to the side. Even after dodging, he is getting nervous. Things are getting much harder. Makoto's fire, which his dark spell should have snuffed out by now, are flaring back up and striking again. Plus, there is a hard limit to his manual control over the shadows, and he is hitting it. Seeing no other choice, he fires a barrage of dark orbs at Makoto. Makoto weaves through the attack, lunging forward to slice his opponent's entire arm clean off. Now the tables have turned. But even without an arm, the enemy lunges, driving his knee into Makoto's injured limb. Makoto hits the dirt in agony as his enemy slowly closes the distance. Looking down at him, he scoffs that losing an arm is nothing compared to the hole in Makoto's stomach. Then he reveals something truly chilling. He had predicted Makoto's strategy from the start. He knew this would turn into a close-quarters brawl. He respects Makoto's power, admitting that he makes perfect choices and never wastes a single second. But Makoto has a fatal flaw. He is too predictable, and that is why he will lose. Reaching into his bag, he pulls out a strange book. He holds it high, claiming Makoto's defeat was written in these pages long ago. Makoto's eyes widen in terror. He recognizes it. It is the Book of Doom. The villain opens the book, ready to reveal a startling truth. He explains that if there is a group dedicated to stopping dark prophecies, then it is only natural that another exists to make sure they happen. Makoto is floored. He never knew such a dark organization even existed. Then comes the final blow. He is actually one of the 12 apostles of the apocalypse. He introduces himself as the 12th of darkness, the one destined to bring the prophecy to life. In total disbelief, Makoto asks why anyone would be so obsessed with global destruction. The opponent flips through the pages with a smirk, mockingly asking if Makoto will ever forgive him. Makoto snaps. The mockery was too much. He puts everything into one massive swing, nearly ripping through his opponent's shoulder. Makoto feels certain. Victory is right there. His enemy is out of mana, and his body looks ready to collapse any second. Makoto ignites his red dragon form. Certain this will end it. But get this, the guy with the shredded shoulder is still standing, laughing that this is actually Makoto's end. Just then, he chugs a potion, and a blinding explosion of light erupts. Makoto is left staring at nothing but white until, from the brilliance, a heavy fist hammers into Makoto's jaw, sending him flying. When the smoke clears, Makoto is in total shock at the sight. Every bit of damage he dealt has vanished, healed completely. His rival is back to 100% strength. Apparently, that potion was a high-tier artifact that grants a total, instant reset on health. With one arm, Makoto unleashes his scarlet blade once more, firing a shockwave at his rival. But the guy just swats it away with dark orbs and launches a counter-barrage. Makoto is reeling. An artifact that broken should be locked down by a government, not a random organization. No normal group should have this kind of power. The villain kicks Makoto right in his open stomach wound, pinning him to the dirt for his final moments. Looking at the broken hero, the guy finally lets out a sigh. He thinks he's finally won. But Makoto, flickering through memories of home and friends, reaches for his steel. He remembers Kanagi saying to treat his brother like a cat, and a bloody grin spreads across his face. Armed with new resolve, he grabs his sword. But as he prepares to swing, a dark beam strikes him, completely severing the hand still clutching his blade. With a cold smirk, the guy tells Makoto it's time to die. He goes for the kill, but suddenly, the crystals behind him shatter as someone arrives. It's Kanagi. And he's not alone. Every founder is here, ready to slaughter whoever made their precious disciple cry. Makoto sees him and worries for his safety. But then he feels it. Something else is bleeding out of Kanagi, something dark and terrifying. Even the villain feels that insane aura coming off him. The kid in front of him doesn't look like a victim anymore. He's an existence that will fight back with everything. Panicking, the guy screams at Kanagi to stay back, threatening to finish Makoto off right now. But in a literal blink, the guy's own arm is sliced clean off. He's paralyzed with shock. He didn't even see the movement. It was too fast. Kanagi didn't even move, just a distant swing. The strike's force even dulled his blade. The founders are stunned that it happened after only a single hit. The alchemist founder steps up, forging a whole arsenal for Kanagi to burn through instead. Eyes burning with rage, Kanagi tells the founders it's time to unleash pure hell. The guy's arm regenerates instantly, leaving Hinoki in total disbelief at the sight. The mage founder calls it reversal. She never thought a modern Awakener could pull this off. It's that artifact. It'll keep healing him endlessly until the magic finally runs dry. Right as she talks, Kanagi snipes an arrow that drills right through the guy's skull. The enemy never saw it coming, but his head heals up instantly. A founder asks the mage how to end this monster. She says they just have to kill him over and over until he finally stays down. The villain casts darkness while Kanagi prepares another shot. As Kanagi lets fly, the dark spell tries to block it, but the arrow punches through, impaling his chest and head. The archer founder laughs, mocking the guy, asking if he really thought those puny shadows could stop him. He heals again, firing back with a burst of darkness orbs. Kanagi uses the founder's god-tier evasion, dodging everything and blurring forward to kick him. He then snatches the guy's arm and slams a palm strike into his face. A founder notices something huge about the guy. He can't fire his destruction beam if those orbs block his sight, giving our team a massive advantage. Avoiding his attacks just became way easier. Kanagi buries a heavy punch into his stomach, sending him flying into the dirt. Honestly, how many times is this guy going to die and come back? Meanwhile, Kanagi approaches the battered Makoto, who asks if his friend is really back. Kanagi says no, he is just a vessel for the legendary spirits right now. Using Valentine's special healing powers, Kanagi starts fixing Makoto's broken arms. While he works, he warns they are in a rush and need to move fast. As Kanagi walks away, Makoto realizes the founders are the ones pulling the strings. Nearby, the villain stands up, losing his mind that his spells are being countered like it is nothing. Before he can even breathe, Kanagi strikes with a spear, driving it straight through his heart. It is a non-stop beatdown. The guy dies repeatedly, getting zero time to recover. A founder asks if leaving the spear in his heart will stop the regeneration. But the weapon just slides through as his body begins to knit back together. Just as he is recovering, Kanagi drops from the sky with a kick, smashing him back down. Kanagi wonders which part of him grows back first if they just atomize everything. He starts growing back from a hand, but by the time he is whole, he is gasping for air. He is being completely erased. But he refuses to let a kid defeat him. He lunges to kill Makoto and escape, but Kanagi is already there, guarding his friend. With a creepy smile, Kanagi tells him he is too late. Then Hinoki takes over and, using his legendary sword style, shreds the villain's body into ribbons. Even as he is being butchered, the guy does not fear death, convinced he is fulfilling some grand destiny or prophecy. But even his resolve starts to shake when facing a monster like Kanagi. As he heals again, he tries to cling to his mission, desperately fighting back the terror rising inside him. He reaches for another artifact in his bag, but Kanagi is faster, slicing his arm off before he can move. The artifact falls, rolling away. A massive golden barrier traps Kanagi, the sand cage of time. Suddenly, the villain's healing factor cuts out, leaving his severed arm a bloody mess. Breathing hard, the guy thinks he just cheated death. But the founders aren't so sure as they watch. They're worried, wondering what comes next now that his healing is toast. The villain mocks them from outside, claiming his darkness can't break the cage, meaning Kanagi is stuck and powerless to kill him. Looking totally stressed out, he tries to make a run for it, but Hinoki just smirks and tells him to keep his eyes glued to the fight. Suddenly, a massive pressure hits him from behind. He spins around and there's Makoto, standing tall while his body literally knits itself back together. Seriously, how is Makoto this much of an absolute unit? It all goes back to his days, training with the legendary Midori. Even the great Midori couldn't beat him in a duel, telling the kid he needed to find a real master to keep growing. Listening to the world's strongest Awakener, Makoto went on a hunt for the most elite masters on the planet. Sword, magic, speed, it didn't matter. He surpassed every single master he trained under in record time. Most of them just gave up within a single month. Finally, one master sent him to the most gifted sword specialist around, Ikika, the talented younger sister of Hinoki. She became his last teacher, and they trained together for 3 whole years. One day, Makoto brought up a legendary technique he read about in a book called Indomitable. Not even Ikika could wrap her head around it, saying it was a move only the founder, Hinoki, could ever pull off. But Makoto was obsessed after reading about its insane power. Ikika eventually realized he'd mastered her style completely. She had nothing left to give him. Makoto was hungry for more, but even his master was stumped on his progress. She called him a bud that just wouldn't bloom, worried that despite his god-tier training, he'd never reach his full potential in this life. All she could do was hope a stronger opponent would eventually show up. Back in the now, Makoto realizes that legendary moment is finally here. He watches Kanagi use sword moves he didn't even think were real, just like Ikika said. A chance like this only happens once in a lifetime. And there's no way he's letting it slip, silently thanking his old master. He starts pressing his severed arms together in the heat of battle. The founders are losing their minds, having no clue what he's doing. Even Kanagi is panicking for his captain, trapped outside with that monster. Suddenly, Makoto begins radiating that same divine aura as Kanagi. Meanwhile, over at the anti-prophecy base, Midori is training hard with SUO when a massive energy spikes. An explosion tears through the facility. And when the smoke clears, There's a giant hole in the wall and Midori has vanished. On the field, the villain is shaking with pure confusion. Seeing Makoto pull off this impossible move while half dead, he knows for a fact he's about to be sliced. Watching the miracle, Hinoki tells Kanagi that people are like flowers. They only truly bloom when they hit their absolute peak. Physical or spiritual, it's here. Mastering the ultimate move. For Makoto, this is finally his moment of true awakening. Standing behind Kanagi, Hinoki tells him to burn this vision into his soul. Kanagi knows exactly what that means. Like a blooming flower, Makoto raises his empty hands as if holding a blade, channeling everything to unleash Hinoki's legendary lost technique. Indomitable, the secret skill he once only read about. The enemy's darkness defense is perfect, but it's totally useless. Without even a real blade, Makoto slices the monster clean in half. The villain stares in shock, realizing his end has finally come right here. As the body crumbles, Hinoki praises him for manifesting a sword from pure thought. Meanwhile, Makoto, though dazed, finally feels like the master swordsman he always dreamed of becoming. He feels blessed to have shared life with his family and friends. Every battle and every comrade he led only made him stronger. Even if his journey ends now, he thinks of his brother and his cat, apologizing from his heart. As darkness takes him, he sees Kanagi walking toward him. Reaching out with a smile, Makoto realizes his legacy won't die. Through Kanagi, his spirit will live on for the next generation. He takes Kanagi's hand, whispers a thank you, and then collapses. With the villain defeated, the shadow cage dissolves. Kanagi runs to his captain, bound to him by the crest of nothingness. His friends lie lifeless, but just as Makoto's light fades, Midori comes screaming through the air. He catches Makoto just before he hits the dirt. At just 23 years old, Makoto takes his final breath in Midori's arms. Midori clings to his friend, drowning in a despair that feels absolutely suffocating. He remembers back to their training days, wondering why Makoto even wanted to be captain. In the anti-prophecy unit, Midori knew Makoto was the second strongest behind him. If he ever went all out, honestly, nobody could have even touched him. Midori once asked if it was better for someone that powerful to fight alone. That question stunned Makoto. He asked Midori if he really seemed like a bad teammate. For Makoto, the team was his world, his absolute everything. He couldn't quite find the words to explain it, but suddenly, the rest of the squad called him through the security feed. Jakaru was losing it because their friend, Kuzashiro, had finally cleared that level 2 assignment. Kuzashiro was beaming, wanting to tell his captain the news first. Jakaru, hyped beyond belief, wanted to celebrate. Seeing them like that actually left Midori speechless. In that moment, Makoto admitted how much he truly loved his squad. Even if he were to fall in battle, he would die happy just having his friends by his side. Back in the present, Midori holds him tight, telling him that his wish to die for his friends came true. Most of the squad has fallen. Now, only 2 survivors remain on this bloody battlefield. Midori wipes away tears, gently closing Makoto's eyes for the very last time. As their leader, Makoto truly gave everything until his final, heroic breath. Midori knows he could never lead like that. Makoto died with absolute honor. But on the flip side, Kanagi is on the ground. The founders watch as darkness begins to cloud his fading consciousness. The mage explains that Kanagi is taking all the weight of this tragedy on himself. He blames himself for the station's destruction and his own supposed, internal weakness. Every single founder there has lost someone they once loved, comrades, friends, and family. Their hearts were shattered as they watched their closest friends depart from this world. For most, like Hinoki, those deep wounds never really healed. They just couldn't move on. Hinoki walks over to Kanagi. He is kneeling in despair. A voice calls out, but in a hopeless, hollow tone. He reveals he doesn't want to fight anymore. His heart is torn. He believes that if he had just let the founders fight earlier, no one would have died. He tried so hard to be strong for others, but he realized something devastating. He had become nothing more than a vessel for the founders' immense power. Hinoki hears these words and tries to find a response. But Kannagi is overwhelmed by his dark thoughts. The hand that shook Makoto's is burning in his mind like a searing, white-hot fire. He knows Makoto entrusted him to carry that legacy forward into the future. The founders are moved to tears, but Kanaga's next words catch them completely off guard. He doesn't just want to surpass them, he wants to transcend them every second. A blinding beam of light strikes down as he screams out his resolve for everyone to hear. From this moment on, he will never let anyone else die again. 1 month later, we arrive at the snowy Mitaki Mountain. Suo is practicing hand-to-hand combat with Kannagi, throwing blow after blow while his opponent dodges them all. Kannagi counters with a lethal-looking penetration spell that cuts the air. Suo blocks it, but the force sends a massive, visible shockwave backward. Kannagi can't believe it. Suo redirected the force of that insane attack like it was absolutely nothing. Suo strikes back, but Kannagi is ready, using Aikido to flip him through the air. Suo launches a mid-air kick, which Kannagi blocks before unleashing a powerful kick of his own. Just as the final blow is about to land, a loud scream stops them both. It's Ikika, so how did this happen? The squad's total annihilation left a massive, deep scar on the entire anti-prophecy unit. At the funeral, everyone was grieving, but Suo just stood frozen in front of his brother's picture. Later, Kannagi spots Suo coming out of Makoto's room holding a cat and a stack of old books. He recognizes the cat as an orb, the one Makoto used to talk about so often. Suo is stunned that Kannagi actually knew about his brother's cat. There was so much he didn't know about his brother's life before entering that room. The books, the clothes, even the food, all the private thoughts Makoto kept hidden away. He only discovered the truth once he started digging through all the old belongings. Kannagi notices that Suo is carrying a bunch of handwritten diaries he plans to take. These were Makoto's final words, a message left behind for his brother to find and read. Every detail of Makoto's training and missions filled those pages. But then Suo spotted something else. Every single entry ended the same way, Makoto worrying about Suo. He wrote about Suo's daily life, the freezing weather, and even every little achievement his brother reached. Sitting alone in his room, Suo finally broke down in tears. He curled up on the floor, realizing his brother's entire world revolved around him. Later, as Suo shared all of this with Kannagi, Kannagi admitted that Makoto never stopped talking about Suo and his cat, Orb. Hearing that, Suo's eyes welled up as he made a vow. He promised to get stronger, so his brother could finally rest easy up in heaven. With new resolve, the two headed off to train with Hinoki Ikika. She was wary at first, but everything changed when they revealed Suo was the brother of the fallen Makoto. Ikika was stunned. She quickly regained her composure as both boys begged her to train them to become powerful. Back in the present, Ikika is floored by their growth, especially Suo, who has made absolutely massive strides. Kannagi asks how he is doing. Ikika just sighs in annoyance, telling Kannagi she has nothing left to teach someone who already knows it all. She even jokes that maybe he should be the one teaching her instead. Then she kicks a stick toward them, a wild, maniacal grin spreading across her face. She declares that she is the sword itself and dares them to attack. The duo charges. Suo strikes from the front while Kannagi rains down an attack from above. As they clash, Kannagi is fueled by pure determination, confident he will soon become the world's strongest Awakener. Meanwhile in London, England, a man in a hat and coat walks through the lonely night streets. As he rounds a corner, a voice recognizes him as Quatra, one of the 12 apostles of the apocalypse. Quatra knows that face immediately. It is Midori standing right there. Midori demands that Quatra reveal the location of his secret base and comrades, warning him that any other words will lead to his death. Hearing this, Quatra instantly summons his strange weapon, a wicked, heart-shaped pike. He challenges Midori to give it his best shot. Suddenly, blood sprays across the alley. Midori walks out a moment later, completely unscathed. Outside, the rest of the anti-prophecy group waits. Midori hands over the book and walks away, stating that 7 members are left. They now hold 5 books, meaning 5 members of the 12 apostles of the apocalypse have already been taken down. Midori is already heading for his next target. Deep within the Anti-Prophecy Unit's top-secret facility, Everlasting Secrets. The book Midori retrieved is presented to a mysterious elderly woman. This is Io, the high-ranking superintendent of the entire Anti-Prophecy Unit. The messenger confirms the book came directly from Midori himself. These are the prophecy books belonging to the 12 apostles of the apocalypse. The man is Tenjin, serving as the superintendent's loyal assistant. Another assistant, a woman named Shiki, watches the exchange closely. She suggests these books might actually be fragments of a single, massive volume that was torn apart. Io opens the book and notes something very interesting. Taking down the apostles and grabbing those books, that is the easy part. The real headache is Midori. He has gone rogue and playing by his own rules. It looks like Makoto's death left a massive, unhealed scar on his soul. Shiki is worried about their next move, but Io just tells them to leave him to her. She is confident he will return, even promising to have some tea waiting. With Makoto's squad gone, Tenjin and Shiki step up with a bold new proposal. There is a huge hole in the Anti-Prophecy Unit that needs filling. They want to lead a new squad themselves. Hearing this, Io goes silent in thought. Meanwhile, on the streets of Tokyo, a Rank 2 prophecy called the Rebellion is starting to unfold. And the big bad behind this one, the God of Dawn himself. The Anti-Prophecy Units are clashing with enemy troops, but they are really struggling to win. Panic starts setting in as the soldiers desperately call for their captain, Hibiki. Captain Hibiki Satsuna finally steps forward. To her, these enemies are just boring trash. She glances back at Akin, who just joined the squad, and asks if she can handle the heat. Akin activates her Trismegistus spell, summoning a massive, swirling orb of liquid mercury. She tells everyone to back off as the mercury floods the ground toward the troops. The moment the enemies are ankle-deep in the silver liquid, it is over. She triggers a gasification spell, turning the liquid into fumes. The troops start choking. Then, the kicker, she turns that gas back into liquid right inside their bodies. Using crimson heat, she starts boiling the mercury from the inside out. And for the finish, she solidifies the metal, erupting spikes through their bodies and killing them all instantly. The rest of the squad is speechless. She just cleared the field in seconds. With a casual snap of her fingers, Akin turns and says she is finished. Hibiki walks up to her, clapping and praising Akin for using all 3 states of matter in a single skill. Tilting Akin's chin, she admits it is a shame she is only a temporary member. Hibiki suggests that once her training is over, she should join the squad permanently. Akin, all excited, says she will consider it while the other members stare in awe. They are all hoping she joins. She is cute, but her power is terrifying. But here is the surprise. Hibiki just wants her around to make battles easier. Later, Akin calls up Kanagi. She tells him she mastered Lesson 7, controlling the 3 states of alchemy perfectly. Now she is hungry for more and asks for the next lesson. Kanagi, currently busy defending his lunch from a cat, tells her it is a deal. Even the founder alchemist is listening in. He is genuinely shocked she is already through level 7 so fast. Kanagi asks the founder to prepare 3 more lessons to keep her busy. He gladly agrees, and when Kanagi passes the news along, Akin is grateful. She also notes that Hanada is on lesson 8. Meanwhile, over in Saitama, a rank 2 level prophecy appeared, an earth beast boss known as Sphinx. Hanada arrives to eliminate the boss. Hanada unleashes a massive lightning kick, obliterating the boss monster in one single, epic blow. That massive hit officially marks the completion of his level 8 lightning kick training. Impressed by his raw power, the Todoroki squad captain offers Hanada a spot on their elite team. Just like Akin, he needs time to weigh his options, asking Akin for advice while she is totally fired up to compete. She confidently declares that no matter which squad he picks, she is going to crush them all. Kanagi, listening in on their joint call, is stoked to see both of his friends getting so much stronger. Inspired by their growth, he decides it is finally time for him to get up and train harder. But as he talks, Suo is getting super annoyed by the cat. The cat keeps clinging to Kannagi instead of him. He yaps about it while trying to pry the feline away. Akin drops a bombshell. Have they heard the rumor about a brand new squad? Kannagi is totally out of it. She explains this team is being put together to fill the massive gap left behind by Makoto's squad. The captain of this new squad will be the person who shows the highest merits and achievements. Kannagi does not think much of it, but Akin clearly has a different perspective on the situation. She reveals that the real mystery is not who gets the title. It is whether Kannagi wants to lead his own team. He laughs it off at first, then suddenly freezes. The sheer weight of her words finally starts to sink in. He asks her why she would even suggest such a thing. She explains there is a deep desire within the anti-prophecy. Somewhere out there, a force exists that is actually capable of wiping every single prophecy from existence. Kannagi is visibly shaken by the scale of this revelation. Akin admits that she is also searching for that kind of world-changing power. She tells him the squad is desperate for a leader with an unbreakable will. In her eyes, Kannagi has exactly what it takes to be a truly legendary squad captain. Akin's captain calls for her, forcing her to excuse herself and say goodbye to Kannagi for now. Left alone, Kannagi cannot stop thinking about the real possibility of becoming a squad captain. Meanwhile, Ikika checks in with Suo to see how Kannagi is doing. Suo spills the beans about the rumor and the possibility of their friend taking a leadership role. Ikika is not surprised. She believes Kannagi could step into that role effortlessly if he really wanted to. Suo totally agrees with her. Seeking guidance, Kannagi turns to the founders, but these ancient masters have no idea what to tell him. Since they spent their entire lives serving a master, they do not actually have any experience leading others. The mage founder finally realizes, calling them all useless teachers for failing to guide Kannagi when he needs them most. Hinoki pivots to the legendary military strategist, Ryan, hoping his tactical mind has the answer. But Ryan stays quiet. He says it is not the right time for him to step in just yet. Someone else is already qualified to lead Kannagi right now. Before he can even process that, a wooden spear slams into the dirt just inches away from him. Looking up, he sees Ikika approaching. She tells him to stop wasting time in his own head and get back to the real work, training. With a wild, maniacal grin, she dares him to try out his flash step against her. Kannagi accepts, leaping off the rock and combining flash step with ripple step for a perfectly soft landing. Ikika watches him, completely stunned. She starts to wonder who he really is. To her, the level of mastery he has gained in just 6 months is impossible for any normal person. Kannagi laughs as he remembers failing Hinoki's brutal flash step, training countless times in the past. Suddenly, he senses a massive wave of energy screaming right toward him. Ikika lunges forward, her wooden staff glowing with raw power. He barely dodges before the staff obliterates a boulder behind him. Suo is absolutely speechless. Ikika doesn't care about his focus. She is going to force it. Kannagi locks in, fully attentive and ready for more now. Inside his mind, Hinoki realizes Ikika is exactly who Ryan mentioned. The ancient mage founder also starts to realize that Ikika is incredibly powerful for a modern Awakener, just like Hinoki's true bloodline. Hinoki denies having any children, though, thinking it might be his brother's line instead. He respects her strength, seeing as she trained someone as incredibly powerful as Makoto himself. She truly is a living successor of the arts. But right as he speaks, he sees her use Skyfall, a technique even he does not recognize. A bolt of electricity shoots toward Kannagi, who barely evades the terrifying force of that attack. Kannagi realizes Ikika is finally going all out against him. Ikika charges again, following up the move. With her purgatory sword style, a massive strike erupts now. Hinoki is watching with excitement. She has actually improved the ancient knowledge passed down to her. Kannagi dodges, and even Ikika is left feeling impressed. He evaded an unknown move. Her praise for his style is genuine. His one-handed style perfectly mimics the founder's own techniques. That comment shocks Kannagi before he can even respond. She asks if he's worried about whether he'll ever become as strong as Makoto. That's exactly what has been weighing on his mind. Suo is stunned as Kanaga's grip tightens, while he remembers the legendary power he saw from Makoto firsthand. The man was truly an extraordinary squad captain. This is why Kannagi keeps questioning if he can ever really reach that same level. Then, surprisingly enough, Ikika tells him he doesn't need to be Makoto, then screams for him to pay attention. She channels her energy as she executes a sword technique. Tang dance, a raging water tornado suddenly forms. She explains that past masters built this technique by refining the founder's original style. They might lack his godlike power, but they never stopped trying. Generations never stopped pushing closer toward that peak over time. It finally clicks. We'll drag each image frame and we drag each image frame in to make the images run a drag drop into CapCut. And similarly with the audio file, we also drag like that all audio. I guarantee that all audio and images and videos are all created by Miso. After I've dragged the audio and images, I will have a version like this. I will insert effects into each frame to create visual appeal for viewers finally. I will review the video one more time to see if there are any parts